Chapter 4:31. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. With Hulaina's first attack, she directly charmed 7 people. Evil Moon and Yin didn't need to do anything. There were 4 soul ancestors behind them who could deal with these 7 people. Even if Yu Qianheng and Duge Yin used their martial soul fusion skill, they might not be able to defeat the 4 soul ancestors behind the 3 members of the Golden Generation. These 4 people were able to become members of the Martial Spirit Hall Academy's team, so they were naturally not weak. They were all around rank 44. The 4 of them together were enough to deal with this blue lightning Jade Qilin Dragon. Moreover, they didn't need to expose Evil Moon and Yan's strength. Even if they really had a martial soul fusion skill, they could just use it as a trump card. Wang Feng felt that if he was the instructor of the Martial Spirit Hall Academy, with such a big gap, he would at most let Hulaina fight. Because Hulaina was too strong, at least Wang Feng thought so. The most important thing was that generally, when a weak team fought against a strong team, they would use their trump card to fight for a chance of victory. For example, the Divine Wind team, or Shrek in the previous qualifiers against the Elephant Armor sect. They all wanted to use martial soul fusion skill to defeat the opponent. You are a strong team, but you are so ridiculously strong that you even used a martial soul fusion skill to fight against Huang Do, who is far weaker than you. Logically speaking, even if you expose your soul skill, it would be much better than exposing your martial soul fusion skill. Once people knew your martial soul fusion skill, they would be on guard. Wang Feng looked at Evil Moon, wanting to see if he was really naive. Wang Feng remembered that in the original book, Evil Moon seemed to have used a martial soul fusion skill with Hulaina. However, this time, it seemed that things didn't go as Wang Feng thought. Evil Moon rushed forward, the moonblade in his hand exuding a bright light, but he didn't fuse with Hulaina, nor did he use a martial soul fusion skill. He directly rushed towards the blue lightning Jade Qilin Dragon. Seeing this, Wang Feng was slightly stunned and thought to himself, it seems that they have changed a lot. They didn't use a martial soul fusion skill, so I don't know what kind of effect their martial soul fusion skill will have. Evil Moon didn't use a martial soul fusion skill. He just waved the moonblade in his hand directly towards the energy dragon. At the same time, the 4 members of the Martial Spirit Hall behind also quickly rushed towards the blue lightning Jade Qilin Dragon. It seems like the changes are not ordinary, Wang Feng murmured. The Martial Spirit Hall strategy is the most effective one. Those 4 Soul Masters have fought a few times, so they are the most suitable to support Evil Moon. And from the looks of it, the Martial Spirit Hall's Academy team and the 3 from the Golden Generation don't look down on them. Wang Feng shook his head. Generally speaking, there was a huge difference in strength between 2 teams. As long as the stronger team did not cause any trouble, they would not give the other team any chance. Moreover, the Martial Spirit Hall didn't show any carelessness. They didn't even use the martial soul fusion skill that Wang Feng remembered. In that case, Yu Tianheng and the others had no chance of winning. With such a huge difference in soul power, even a martial soul fusion skill wouldn't bring them much of a chance of winning. Coupled with Hulaina's special charm, the 4 Soul Masters had almost completely lost their ability to fight at the start of the match. Then, as Wang Feng had expected, the rest of the battle was very simple. Evil Moon's moonblade was extremely sharp, and it was a double-edged weapon. The angle of attack was very tricky. He didn't even use any soul skills. He only relied on his physical fitness and the support of the 4 soul ancestors to defeat the Azure Lightning Jade Qilin Dragon. The other Yin didn't have any intention to make a move at all. And after Hulaina used her charm on Huang Do and the others, she didn't have any intention to make a move either. After a few minutes, as the Azure Lightning Jade Qilin Dragon dissipated, Yu Qianheng and Duge Yan's figures appeared. We admit defeat. Yu Qianheng coughed out a mouthful of blood and said in a deep voice. Evil Moon snorted coldly. With a suction of his palm, the 2 moonblades returned to his hand. The other 4 Soul Masters followed behind him and retreated. This battle didn't end very quickly. It was much slower than the previous battle between Jiu Yikai and the Divine Wind team. Because Jiu Yikai, with his powerful strength, Shattered Fire Dance, and Feng Xiaoyan's martial soul fusion skill with 4 hammers. Evil Moon and the 4 Soul Masters spent 2 minutes to defeat Yu Qianheng and Duge Yan's martial soul fusion skill. But in this battle, the 3 members of the Golden Generation didn't reveal much, very little. Only Hulaina revealed a bit of her strength, a powerful and terrifying group charm. As for the rest, he knew nothing. Moreover, Hulaina's mutated martial soul might have an even more exaggerated change. He didn't know what it would be like. If little 3 and the others encounter them, it should be very troublesome. Wang Feng pondered, the strength that these 3 people showed is really too little. Even I don't know much. Oh, my memory is not very clear. Wang Feng really couldn't remember the strength of these 3 people in the original work. He only remembered a martial soul fusion skill that seemed to turn them into a person that was neither male nor female. Moreover, Hulaina's martial soul has mutated. The corresponding martial soul fusion skill should have also changed. Maybe it can't even be used? Wang Feng glanced at Shui Bing beside him. Her situation was like this. The sudden mutation of the martial soul naturally had a great impact on the martial soul fusion skill. After today's competition, many of the academy teams had an idea in their hearts. Whether it was individual strength, it could be said to be a terrifying one, or the golden generation of the martial spirit hall. They were far from what the other academies could compare to. Even if they really used their trump cards, it would be useless. If they encountered them, they would just admit defeat directly. Therefore, such a result directly led to the 4th day. Only in the 4th round, there was not a single match, because the 4th round was the elimination round for the top 6. Purple Star, Shrek, Martial Spirit Hall, Heavenly Water, and 2 other academies. Wang Feng encountered Heavenly Water, and Shui Bing directly admitted defeat. The other team that the Martial Spirit Palace met also directly admitted defeat and forfeited. The only match was between Shrek and the other team. However, this match didn't happen. This was the 3rd team from the Star Luo Empire in the advancement round. Logically speaking, this team's luck was really good, because on the 1st day, they met Heaven Do, the weakest team, and won. On the 2nd day, the 1st-ranked team had a bye, but Ares Academy was eliminated by Wang Feng. The 2nd-ranked team was also eliminated in the 1st round. Therefore, they took over and had a bye. On the 3rd day, the 2nd-ranked team in the advancement round had a bye, and they also had a bye. Then it was the 4th round. Being able to make it to the top 6 made this team grin from ear to ear, because their original goal was only to survive the 1st round. Against Tang San, they didn't even think about it and directly admitted defeat. Just like that, on the 4th day, they took a day off. On the 5th day, 3 teams were born: Purple Star, Shrek, and Martial Spirit Hall. On the 5th day, the venue of the competition had to be changed. It was a plaza in front of the Pope's Palace, only a few steps away from the Pope's Palace. The Pope's Palace was where Wang Feng checked in. A new week. Please count the votes. End of chapter. Chapter 432. On the morning of the 5th day, Wang Feng woke up early in the morning. He had been simulating today's match the entire day. As for the final 3 teams, Wang Feng already knew who they would be when they entered the finals. Although he knew that this year's Golden Generation would be different from the original story, he didn't expect them to be so different. Yesterday, they didn't even reveal their martial soul fusion skills when they fought the Imperial Battle Team. Their soul power ranks were exceptionally high. At the same time, Hulaina had absorbed Xingxing's soul ring and possessed a soul bone. Xingxing had followed him for a few years. She wasn't an ordinary Star Moon Fox. Hulaina's abilities were definitely special. Wang Feng's mood was a little unstable. He had too many questions in his heart. As for the simulation of the last day's match, Wang Feng could only see a rough outline. However, Tang San's team would definitely face a huge threat. He couldn't fight. Not to mention, the 7-man team for the finals was already fixed and couldn't be changed. Even if he could fight in the individual round, he couldn't change his outfit in that kind of situation. The competition would be held outside the plaza of the Pontiff's Palace. There would be a bunch of titled Douluo there. According to Wang Feng's calculations, his identity might be exposed if he entered the finals. However, it didn't matter. At most, he would be disqualified from being the champion. Could the Martial Soul Hall use that as an excuse to kill him? Being the champion wasn't Wang Feng's goal. To him, it was just an additional reward. Wang Feng didn't really care about the 4 soul bones. When Wang Feng put on his 911 outfit and walked with Dean Fei Luan to the Pontiff's palace, he realized that the weather was exceptionally good. The weather is good today. Dean Fei Luan chuckled. To be honest, I didn't expect you to make it this far. A third-rate academy from Heavendo City had been dragged all the way to the finals of the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament. Although many teams were used to it after watching the 9-1 fight, they were already used to it. However, if they thought about it from outside the circle, it was too terrifying. Champion, I don't have much confidence in you. I'm an honest person. Dean Fei Luan continued. However, I'm already very satisfied that you've made it this far. For today's match, you'll have to play according to the situation. All right, after the competition ends, even if you don't continue to stay in Purple Star College, our school will still treat you as a symbol of our school and erect a statue for you. Wang Feng, he didn't answer. After the competition ended, Wang Feng wanted to figure out what had happened to Xing Xing, and the other 2 little fellows before going to the next check-in location to cultivate, and then look for the little green bird. At the same time, he wanted to ensure that Xing and Yi's consciousness would never dissipate. Therefore, Wang Feng naturally couldn't stay in Purple Star College any longer. The team from Shrek Academy and Martial Spirit Palace were also with them. There were a total of 15 people in the 3 teams, including the accompanying teachers. They walked towards the splendid Hierophant Palace on the hill in front of them. The 3 teams each had their own strengths. The team of the Martial Spirit Palace was full of confidence as they walked in the front. Behind him was Tang San's group. They were very calm. The last one was Wang Feng. Occasionally, he could see Tang San and the others. They would turn around to look at him, but there was no communication. At the foot of the hill, about 300 meters away, stood the paladins of the Martial Spirit Palace. They held silver spears and stood in a cross position, solemn and dignified, forming a special ceremonial path. Soon, the 3 teams arrived at the square outside the Pope's palace. As they got closer, Wang Feng could see the gate of the Pope's palace that was only a few steps away. The gold-gilded gate was at least 10 meters tall. It was grand and magnificent, and there were 6 different special patterns engraved on it, symbolizing several titled Douluo. The semicircular arched door seemed to contain a divine power. Who knew what kind of light it would emit when it was opened? At this moment, the sound of a bell was heard. 12 red-robed bishops walked to both sides of the gate, like the guards in front of an ancient emperor. As their status was second only to the platinum bishops, they only had the qualification to guard here. They're really pretentious. Wang Feng's eyes didn't move. He looked at the gate calmly. One of the red-robed bishops at the front shouted in a clear voice, "His Majesty the Pope has arrived." His voice seemed to be able to spread to the entire Martial Spirit City. As soon as the bell rang, countless earth-shattering voices came from the foot of the hill and the Martial Spirit City. The voices of "Long live the Pope" were louder and louder, with a fanatical belief and loyalty in them. Wang Feng knew that it was impossible for the red-robed bishops' voices to reach the Martial Spirit City. It should be that special bell sound that reached the Martial Spirit City. It meant that His Majesty the Pope was about to appear, so it attracted such a loud and clear voice. It was even more exciting than when Wang Feng saw the opening ceremony of the 2008 Olympic Games in his previous life. In such an environment, even if one wasn't a member of the Martial Spirit Palace, he would feel a sense of respect and reverence. When the gate opened, the cheers seemed to have reached a peak. Wang Feng also saw the people coming. From the moment the gate opened, it seemed that tens of thousands of spotlights were shining from inside. For golden figures walked out, followed by another figure. After a while, when the group of people walked out, they could see clearly. Leading them was Pope Bibi Dawn. Her papal robe was specially made, with a bright gold base and 3 gems of red, blue, and gold. It was overflowing with colors and looked noble. The purple gold crown on her head was even more majestic. Wang Feng took a glance and retracted his gaze. Although Pope Bibi Don was the same age as Master, he couldn't tell it all. She was beautiful, but more of a majestic presence. It reminded Wang Feng of Wu Zetian in his previous life. With such a status and strength, it was enough to make people forget her beauty. They were only awed by her majesty and bearing. The three people beside her were also wearing bright gold robes. There was a huge, angular gem embedded in their chests, symbolizing their status as titled Douluo. Naturally, only titled Douluo were qualified to wear such robes. They were the Ghost Douluo, the Chrysanthemum Douluo, and the Sword Douluo. Although the Sword Douluo was a member of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile sect, he was also an honorary elder of the Martial Spirit Palace. Normally, he didn't participate in the Martial Spirit Palace's matters. The other two titled Douluo were different from when they first attacked them. They didn't cover their faces. The Chrysanthemum Douluo looked a little feminine. His skin was very white and tender, and he took better care of his skin than a girl. Although the Ghost Douluo was wearing a bright gold robe, his face was wrapped in a layer of fog, as if it had been pixelated. It was impossible to see what he looked like. The last person was Ning Fengji. He wasn't a titled Douluo, but his status was there. Naturally, he was qualified to walk out with the Pope. End of chapter. Chapter 433. After Bibi Don walked out with the four of them, all the people of the Martial Spirit Palace present knelt down on one knee to show their respect. However, Tang San and the others didn't kneel down. Of course, Wang Feng didn't kneel down either. In this kind of place, it was a kind of disrespect in theory, but there was no rule that said they had to kneel. Just like the people of the Star Luo Empire, when they saw the Emperor of the Heaven Do Empire, they were not controlled by the Heaven Do Empire, so they naturally didn't have to kneel down. Seeing this, the red-robed bishop behind them was angry and was about to get angry. But he was stopped by Bibi Don with a wave of her hand. Her eyes first swept over Shrek and the others, then quickly fell on Tang San. Tang San was the disciple of the master, so Bibi Don knew very well who Tang San was. Although she was just examining them, there was a special majesty in her eyes. The seven of them did not dare to look her in the eye. Only Tang San's eyes were shining with purple light, and he barely dared to look Bibi Dong in the eye. Wang Feng watched all this quietly. Bibi Dong was almost 50 years old and had rich experience. She had been in charge of the Martial Spirit Palace for so many years. Her power was released without being angry. Coupled with her hidden strength as a titled Daw, not to mention a soul ancestor over 40, even a soul emperor over 60 wouldn't dare to look at her. Sometimes Wang Feng would think that the master's identity and Bibidon's identity were like heaven and earth. How did they fall in love with each other? But thinking about it, Bibidon didn't care about a person's strength at that time, but more about a person's ability in all aspects. Although the master's martial soul was trash, his upper limit was very low. But his intelligence and wisdom were top-notch. In comparison, he could naturally attract others. Bibidon was like this, and so was Lu Erlong. Moreover, in the original work, Tang San's path in the early stage would have been many times more difficult without the guidance of the master. Shrek's 7 monsters wouldn't have existed. Bibidon sized up Tang San for a while, but there was no change in his eyes. He just nodded slightly. His calm voice did not have any trace of age, only smooth and majestic. The student has surpassed the teacher. Not bad. Compared to your teacher back then, you don't lose to him. Hearing this, many people were astonished, including the members of the Martial Spirit Palace. After all, almost no one present knew the relationship between Bibidon and the master. Wang Feng was an exception. Tang San, however, replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Your Highness, you flatter me. There's still a big gap between my teacher and me. Although he was being modest, many people obviously didn't think so. Bibidon didn't say anything more. She looked around Shrek and the others as if she was looking for another person, but she couldn't find him. Thus, he did not look any further. Tang San thought to himself, it seems that His Majesty, the Pope, knows a lot about us. He was probably looking for Big Brother Feng just now. Unfortunately, Big Brother Feng didn't come today. Thinking of this, Tang Xin felt rather regretful. Although the master said that Big Brother Feng couldn't play in the finals and they could only rely on themselves. But it was good to come and watch the competition anyway. Only last night, Wang Feng came over to discuss tactics with them and the master. He told them that the Golden Generation was very likely to have a powerful martial soul fusion skill and warned them to be careful. Also, they must pay attention to that hyena. He didn't say anything else. At this time, BB Don looked at a figure in another position. He was wearing a black robe and a white mask. He looked like a lonely guest walking in the shadows, looking mysterious and cold. "How dare you? Why don't you take off your mask when you see His Majesty the Pope?" A red-robed bishop rebuked angrily. "This place is so sacred. How can you be so sneaky?" In an instant, all eyes were focused on this figure. 9 open. The master outside the square frowned slightly and didn't say anything. The members of the Martial Spirit Palace team and the 3 members of the Golden Generation were also staring at 9 open. In the hearts of the 3 of them, according to the analysis of many teachers and experts in the Martial Spirit Palace 4 days ago, they had already listed 9 open as their biggest enemy. It could be imagined how curious and attentive the 3 of them were to this 9 open. BB Don was also watching 9 open. The mask only covered the face, but the eyes couldn't be mistaken. Compared to the purple light in Tang San's eyes before, this 9 open's eyes were unusually calm, like a quiet pool. When he looked at her, there was no fluctuation. BB Don was a little surprised. At this time, Wang Feng slowly opened his mouth and said in a hoarse voice, "I'm too ugly. If I take off the mask, I'm afraid I'll scare His Majesty the Pope." Although His Majesty the Pope's eyes are like torches and he doesn't care about a person's appearance, if you suddenly let me take off the mask and scare His Majesty the Pope, wouldn't you commit a heinous crime? Hearing this, the whole place was silent in an instant. The red-robed bishop was refuted to the point that he couldn't say a word. His face turned red and he pointed at 9 open. "Uffed." Hyena from the Golden Generation chuckled softly and blinked her eyes. "This 9 open, he's really bold." Evil Moon and Yin didn't speak and just looked at Wang Feng seriously. "You can leave." BB Don glanced at the red-robed bishop and said slowly, "This is his personal privacy. The competition doesn't stipulate that you can't wear a mask, and my Martial Spirit Palace doesn't have any rules that force everyone to show their face." Ghost Douluo was a good example, although the two's status and strength were not comparable. After saying that, BB Don didn't look anymore. Instead, she walked to the high platform in the square and gave a simple speech. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Although BB Don was a villain in the original work, as the Pope of the Martial Spirit Palace, her words were indeed like a spring breeze, and there was no intention of coercion. However, in front of everyone, in order to maintain the dignity of the Pope, she naturally wouldn't act recklessly. After the speech, BB Don waved the scepter in her hand gently. 4 soul bones directly floated in midair. Wang Feng glanced at them. The highest among these soul bones was only about 50,000 years old, which wasn't bad. However, Wang Feng didn't think much of them. The 50,000-year-old soul bone was a skull. Other than that, there was also a left and right hand bone and a leg bone. They were all soul bones that were more than 10,000 years old. Among these 4 soul bones, the skull is the skull of wisdom, the right arm that can explode and burn, the left arm that can move mountains, and the left leg that can chase the wind at extreme speed. They're all soul bones that are more than 10,000 years old, and the skull of wisdom is more than 50,000 years old. The one who spoke was the chrysanthemum Douluo, who introduced them in a soft voice. Although his voice gave everyone goosebumps, it was still very shocking. Soul bones that were more than 50,000 years old. And the skull. Among the soul bones, other than the external soul bones, the most precious parts were the torso and head. One could imagine. There's only one champion in the competition, and the rewards only belong to the champion team. BB Don glanced at the 15 people. This morning, you will participate in the individual competition. The team that stands at the end will directly enter the finals, and the remaining 2 teams will participate in the team competition in the afternoon to fight for the other spot in the finals. Now, you can send your team members to prepare for the competition. Into chapter. Chapter 434. In this kind of individual competition, it was very disadvantageous for only one person to have a 9-1 chance, because he would have to face the joint attack of the other 2 teams. He was alone, and there was no possibility of rotation. If the 2 teams joined forces and attacked the 9-1 chance, they could defeat the 9-1 chance. Even if they didn't lose, it would be a Pyrrhic victory if the 9-1 chance won. The next day was the finals, and the 9-1 chance would not have time to recover. In the finals on the second day, he would not be able to use his full strength against the other team. He would definitely lose. It was almost impossible for him to win the competition by himself. However, this was based on the strong alliance between Shrek Academy and Martial Spirit Palace. In fact, on the 4th day, Martial Spirit Palace went to Shrek Academy. They asked to join forces with them to severely injure the 9-1 chance. If the 9-1 chance lost, the 9-1 chance would not be able to fight again in the team competition. Then both teams could enter the finals steadily and decide the winner at that time. If the 9-1 chance won, then the 2 teams would fight in the afternoon. Whoever won would be the champion of the finals on the second day. No matter what, there was no disadvantage for the 2 teams to join forces with each other. As long as they defeated the mysterious and powerful 9-1 first, the champion would only be between the 2 teams. After hearing the Martial Spirit Palace's proposal, Tang San and the others were silent for a long time. As early as in the individual competition, they had already fought seriously with the 9-1 chance. However, it was almost a one-sided crushing. So they were a little hesitant about the Martial Spirit Palace's proposal and then asked the master. But the master said, "It depends on your own choice. If the 3 teams compete for hegemony, it's not a bad thing for the other 2 teams to join forces. On the contrary, it can form a balance." Then Tang San went to ask Wang Feng. Wang Feng also said, "Ask your own heart. If you want to join forces, then join forces. If you don't, then don't." After some choice, Tang San and the others still did not choose to join forces with a Martial Spirit Palace. Regarding this, the Martial Spirit Palace didn't say anything. In fact, Tang San and the others were a little frightened by the Martial Spirit Palace's choice. The strength of the Martial Spirit Palace could be seen from the battle with the Imperial Battle Team. It was almost a one-sided crushing. 3 Soul Kings around level 55. This was an existence that far surpassed all the other teams. But even so, the 3 of them still chose to join forces with the Shrek Academy to deal with the 9-1 odds. It was easy to imagine that the Martial Spirit Palace Academy had already listed 9-1 as their number 1 enemy. In fact, Tang San was even more terrified after he reviewed the September 1st match and analyzed it from beginning to end. Because from the current performance of a 9-1, it was impossible for anyone from the 3rd generation of the Golden Generation to do what he did. One person had fought so many battles. He had never lost before. In almost every battle, he quickly understood the enemy in a short period of time and used the most precise attack method to crush the enemy with tyrannical strength that seemed to never end. Even though his soul force was only around rank 40, the strength and intelligence he displayed was something that even a rank 60 soul emperor or a rank 70 soul sage couldn't compare to. It was no wonder that even though Martial Spirit Palace had 3 members of the Golden Generation, they still chose to team up with them to deal with 9-1 in the individual competition. In this competition, 9-1 will be the final enemy. When he thought of this, Tang San was suddenly awakened. This mysterious 9-1, who had left everyone in the dust in the Heaven Dose City qualifiers, had actually become the final boss of this competition. In fact, Tang San's thoughts weren't completely correct. The Martial Spirit Palace Academy wanted to team up with them. Other than the fact that they wanted to be strong, the main reason was that they didn't want to waste too much effort in the individual battles. If it was a team battle, they weren't afraid of 9-1. In addition, the threat of 9-1 was too great. It would be more reassuring to get rid of them as soon as possible. In comparison, Shrek Academy was weaker. Even if they competed with them for the championship, their chances of winning were very low. Soon, the competition officially began. Because Purple Star College only had 9-to-1 odds, they could only send him alone. Shrek Academy and Martial Spirit Palace each sent one person. Shrek sent Jingling, and Martial Spirit Palace sent another rank 43 soul ancestor. The three of them drew lots. Wang Feng's luck was very good. This meant that Jingling and Martial Spirit Palace's soul ancestor would fight. But Shrek Academy directly admitted defeat. Because the soul ancestor of Martial Spirit Palace was a control-type soul ancestor, he was very good at restraining Jingling. Then it was time for the soul ancestor of Martial Spirit Palace to fight with Wang Feng. But Martial Spirit Palace also chose to admit defeat. In the first round, Wang Feng won directly. Tang San's team and the Golden Generation frowned slightly. The two teams didn't team up, and now they didn't want to fight with Wang Feng because they knew that whoever went up would definitely lose. At that time, their team members would lose their combat power, which would be very disadvantageous for the rest of the team battle. Tang San's team had fought with 9-to-1. Even though more than a month had passed, their strength had improved. But from the two finals, the strength of 9-to-1 was far more than that. So it was almost impossible for them to win the individual battles. Both teams didn't want to lose, so the situation in the first round was like this. There weren't many Soul Masters present, but most of them were famous figures in the Soul Master world, not to mention many Soul Masters from Martial Spirit Palace. There was a row of seats in front of the door. It was really Pope BB Don and the other four. Seeing the scene at this time, they also frowned slightly. Wang Fengxin smiled. Logically speaking, if the two teams joined forces to fight him, it meant that he would have to face 14 people in a round-robin battle. Although it wouldn't be strenuous, it would be more mentally exhausting. It wouldn't be easy to defeat them. But if they didn't team up and no one wanted to fight with him, then the one who would benefit in the end would still be him. But with Tang San's character, he would never team up with Martial Spirit Palace. Humph, this Shrek Academy is really a coward. Yin snorted coldly. I'll go next. I fought with 9-to-1. Evil Moon shook his head and frowned. Shrek Academy fought with 9-to-1 in the advancement match. I don't know the details, but 9-to-1 strength, Yin, do you think you can do it? Our teachers have analyzed that 9-to-1's individual strength is far above ours. If we want to defeat him, we can only rely on the team battle. If it's two teams, we'll have a chance to defeat 9-to-1 in the individual battle and make him lose most of his combat ability. But if we don't team up, we may not be able to defeat him even if we take turns. If you go up, I can guarantee that you won't be able to withstand a few moves. What if you get injured and can't recover in time? This was the concern of all the teams in the top three. Wang Feng was now Cao Cao in the romance of the Three Kingdoms. If Sun Lu didn't team up, it was almost impossible to defeat him in an individual battle. Whoever went up would mean that their overall combat ability would be weakened. End of this chapter. Chapter 435. What else can we do? If this goes on, are we going to let 9-1 Open retain his full strength and directly advance to the finals? Are we going to fight Shrek in the afternoon? Even if we win against Shrek, what are our chances of winning against a 9-to-1 team in their peak condition? Yin said in a deep voice, this Shrek Academy is really stupid. Joining forces to defeat 9-1 Open is the wisest choice. They watched 9-1 Open all the way here, so their understanding should be clearer than ours. In fact, if the ambush hadn't happened, Tang San and the others might have really chosen to join forces with the Martial Spear Hall team. But it was impossible now. The three from the Golden Generation didn't know that BB Don had secretly sent people to assassinate Shrek's team. At this moment, the second round began. Shrek's team sent Huang Yuan, and the Martial Spear Hall's team sent another rank 44 agility-type Soul Master. After the draw, Wang Feng's first opponent was the rank 44 agility-type Soul Master from the Martial Spirit Hall team. This time, the Martial Spirit Hall team member didn't choose to admit defeat. This agility-type soul master's martial soul was a winged feather kangaroo, a very high-quality agility-type soul master. It had decent speed, and with the addition of the wind element, it was considered a unique existence among the agility-type soul masters. Obviously, he wanted to try attacking, but very quickly, their hopes were dashed by the 9-1 opening. In less than 2 seconds, this agility-type soul master was directly defeated. The battle was very simple, and there was nothing exaggerated. This wind feather kangaroo soul master released his martial soul at the beginning and was about to attack. But Wang Feng used a mysterious underworld spike to form 2 3 to 4 meter long iron rods and sent him flying with terrifying speed. He didn't even have a chance to attack. Without the speed of a rank 55 agility-type soul master, there was no way to dodge Wang Feng's attack. This made the Martial Spirit Hall team feel a little powerless again. When Huang Yuan went up against Wang Feng, he directly admitted defeat under Tang San's request. Wang Feng's individual competition this time wasn't like the previous qualifiers, where he used all kinds of fancy tricks. He used pure strength and speed to crush his opponents. Logically speaking, when Wang Feng fought against Tang San and the others in the rank advancement match, he used more tricks to defeat the 8 of them quickly in order to hide his strength. And now, after entering the finals, Wang Feng had been using pure strength to crush his opponents. This caused the opponent to feel even more despair, which was why the situation was like this. What should we do? This 9-1 is really not giving us any chances now. Ma Hongjun scratched his head. I think the Martial Spirit Palace is also a little anxious. If this goes on, they won't be able to exhaust much of their fighting strength. If they bring out their real strength and are afraid of exposing their strength, the 3 Golden Generation will definitely not come out. We've already fought with Jiui a long time ago. Everyone was silent. There was no solution. These 2 words appeared in everyone's mind. Why don't we just admit defeat and preserve our strength and let the Martial Spirit Palace battle team fight Team 9? Ning Rongrong's eyes lit up. If we withdraw, the Martial Spirit Palace team might bring out their true abilities to fight against Jiui. At that time, both sides will suffer. Although we are in a losers group, we still have hope of winning against any of them in the afternoon. Everyone's eyes lit up. Good idea. But what if the Martial Spirit Palace also admits defeat? The 9-1 will not consume any energy and directly enter the finals. Tang San slowly said, then the Martial Spirit Palace will fight against us in full strength in the afternoon. At that time, even if they win, it will be difficult for them to recover. How will they fight against Jiui tomorrow? Ning Rongrong was stunned and immediately showed a bitter face. It shouldn't be, right? Rongrong's idea is good because Xiao Wu's tone was a little strange. They're different from us. They're the Golden Generation of the Martial Spirit Palace. The 3 people that the Martial Spirit Palace has high hopes for. With the pride of the Martial Spirit Palace, how can they admit defeat? Even if they want to, the Martial Spirit Palace will not agree, not to mention that the Pope is here. Xiao Wu's words stunned everyone. Also, why didn't they admit defeat in the second round? It's because they don't want to continue like this. And those 3 are the Golden Generation. They will not admit defeat directly. They will definitely fight, and they must fight. Xiao Wu continued. After she finished speaking, Shrek and the others were all stunned. Even Tang San had not thought about this. He had been thinking about the tactics of the battle, but he had never thought of thinking about this problem from a higher point of view. Thinking of this, it suddenly dawned on him. Yes, they dared to admit defeat because they were just Shrek Academy. But how could the Martial Spirit Palace dare to admit defeat? They were the symbol of the younger generation of the Martial Spirit Palace. If they admitted defeat without even fighting, how could they raise their heads in the Martial Spirit Palace in the future? The Martial Spirit Palace had lost all face. What qualifications did they have to be the Golden Generation? They were even awarded the Purple Merit Badge by the Pope. If they admitted defeat directly, it would be even more humiliating than if they were defeated directly. Tang Xin glanced at Xiao Wu with a smile on his face. This should be the way to break out of this situation. The rest of the people also trembled and suddenly came to their senses. They figured it out before the third round began. Tang stood out on behalf of Shrek Academy and shouted, "We, the Shrek Academy, admit defeat and voluntarily enter the losers group in the afternoon." As soon as he said that, the audience fell silent. The masters sitting in the spectators' seats smiled faintly. Retreating in order to advance. It seems that you have matured to think of this point. The master sighed softly. What's so good about admitting defeat? Lu Erlong frowned and said, what if the martial spirit palace also admits defeat? Then the other three won't even have a chance to win, right? But the master pointed to the martial spirit palace and whispered, do you think they will admit defeat? Hearing this, Lu Erlong looked over and was stunned. The members of the martial spirit palace looked extremely gloomy, especially the three members of the Golden Generation. As members of the Golden Generation, the Pope personally awarded them the Purple Merit Badge and placed high hopes on them. They won't admit defeat directly. The master smiled and said, the three of them have taken on too much glory and responsibility. This is where Shrek's 7 monsters have an advantage over them. They don't have so many burdens. Lu Erlong suddenly understood. She looked at the BB Don sitting in front of the gate of the Pope's palace and found that the BB Don was frowning slightly at this moment. At this moment, the red-robed referee was also stunned. He didn't expect that the Shrek Academy would admit defeat directly. Then, the only thing left was to fight with the Martial Spirit Palace in the one-on-one battle. There was only one person in a 9-1 situation. They didn't even need to draw lots. The Martial Spirit Palace only needed to send people to fight. As long as they defeated the Martial Spirit Palace, they would be the winners group tomorrow. End of chapter. Chapter 436. What a cunning Shrek Academy. Yin said angrily, they're sure that we won't admit defeat, so they deliberately let us fight 9-1. Do they want to be the fisherman who benefits? The other two were silent. In fact, Xiao Wu was right, and so was the master. The three of them had borne too much glory and light. Even if the other team members could admit defeat, they couldn't directly admit defeat on behalf of the academy. Otherwise, it would be a disgrace. Even if they lost to 9-1, it was much better than admitting defeat directly. But after the fight, their overall strength would be greatly weakened, and it would be easy to expose their strength. Then let's go. Evil Moon said in a deep voice, we naturally can admit defeat. If we can directly defeat 9-1, then we still have half a day to rest. Admit defeat directly? What a joke. The Pope was still here. If they admitted defeat directly, the Martial Spirit Hall would lose a lot of face. Shrek and the others didn't have any burdens. On the other side, Wang Feng also showed a smile. It seemed that little three and the others were smart enough to admit defeat now. Then, I hope to see you in the finals. Wang Feng's eyes flickered. He looked at the people from the Martial Spirit Hall and walked directly to the center of the square. The meaning was obvious. The red-robe referee didn't say anything and looked directly at the Golden Generation. At this moment, Pope BB Don suddenly said, it's okay to admit defeat. It's not a problem to admit defeat. This is your right. However, since you've admitted defeat, go back and prepare for the match this afternoon. Hearing this, Tang San and the others' expressions changed slightly. This Pope was indeed not simple. It was obvious that he wanted to drive them away so that they couldn't see the individual battle between 9-1 and the Golden Generation of the Martial Spirit Hall. This meant that they couldn't know the detailed strength of the Golden Generation. Wang Feng was quite interested. Although this back and forth was not a battlefield, it also showed the shrewdness of this Pope BB Don. Obviously, he wanted to hide the strength of the Martial Spirit Hall to the greatest extent. The master stood up and slowly left the square with Tang San and the others. They couldn't find any reason to stay. However, Ning Fengji and the Sword Dua didn't leave. The representative of the Heaven Do Empire didn't leave either. As the Crown Prince, Xue Qinghe was also present. They were invited here, so it was only right for them to watch. The Star Luo Empire's representative team had already left Martial Spirit City the day before because none of their teams had made it to the finals. There weren't many viewers at the moment. I'll go first. On the other side, Yin said in a deep voice, "The rest of the team members can conserve their strength, but the three of us can't admit defeat. Now that Shrek's team is gone, we can bring out our skills and fight them. Then I'll go second. Little Na, you'll go last." A strange light flashed in Evil Moon's eyes. Hulaina also nodded. Yin walked onto the arena. He who had already endured for a long time practically had an explosive force surging out of his body with every step he took. The rank 55 soul warriors, 5 soul rings suddenly lit up. A pure, elemental, ancient beast martial spirit, like the Lord of the Flames, was extremely rare. To be able to become a member of the Golden Generation, he was naturally not weak. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black. Many of the teachers in the hall had analyzed 9-1 Kai in various ways and determined that his individual strength was at least above level 65. It was even possible for him to reach level 70. He could be called an inconceivable, peerless genius. However, he was not convinced. There were some things that no matter how much he analyzed, he would never be able to fight them. With their pride, they would not be completely convinced. "Match begin." The red-robed bishop shouted softly. After saying that, Yin roared, and the soul rings on his body lit up one after another. Countless flames spread throughout his body, and a huge, flaming humanoid appeared directly from his body. It was his martial soul, the Lord of the Flames. After the martial soul possession, Yan's limbs were all burning with flames. There was also a flame burning between his eyebrows, and his eyes were crimson red. At this moment, Wang Feng was already attacking him. Wang Feng's speed was naturally very fast, and he did not even use the soul-killing spear. Previously, Zhan Xiaotian was enhanced by 2 extreme limits, and coupled with the influence of the environment, that was why Wang Feng was able to use the soul-killing spear. Although this Yin was very strong, if he wanted Wang Feng to use the soul-killing spear, it was not something that could be done with just a martial soul possession. Wang Feng also wanted to understand the specific strength of these people. Yan's martial soul was not weaker than Zhan Xiaotian's Zhanmeng beast. It could only be said that they were on par. However, it was also a very comprehensive martial soul. Strength and defense were absolute advantages. His attacks were also accompanied by a special effect. It was a powerful divine wind martial soul, and it had no obvious weaknesses. However, speed was not his forte. However, he did not need to be very fast. Anyone who dared to attack him would be burned by his flames. Soul skill, Raging Flame Body. Jiu Kai was extremely fast, and there was no fancy whistling as he punched towards Yan. Yan's 4th soul ring lit up. Suddenly, his skin turned golden red, and he looked indestructible. 1,000-year soul skill, Raging Flame Body, increases one's defense by 100%, making one's body extremely tough. Increases one's strength by 50%, and when flames cover one's entire body to attack an enemy, the enemy will be burned. This was one of his core soul skills. Jiu Kai was very fast, and he could only use his 4th soul skill as a test. He punched towards Jiu Kai, who was covered in flames. The 2 fists collided. Instantly, a strong flow of flames was unleashed. Yan's expression changed slightly, and he could not help but glide back more than 10 meters. Just his physical strength is so strong. No wonder the teachers analyzed that this person's strength is at least above rank 60. Yan's eyes were a little gloomy. However, if you take this punch head-on, your hand will be affected by my flames. Furthermore, the flames have the ability to corrode soul power. The flames in his soul skill were naturally not ordinary flames. However, when Yin looked at Jiu Kai's fist, he was stunned. Jiu Kai did not take half a step back, but there were no traces of flames on his fist, and it looked a little white under the sunlight. Fire immunity? Yin was stunned. His body is also fire immune. Not only him, but all the spectators were also stunned as they looked at Jiu Kai. At this moment, Wang Feng did not give him any time to think. With one punch, Wang Feng had already tested Yan's strength. The quality of his martial soul was similar to Zhan Xiaotian's. but his soul power was much higher, so his overall strength was much stronger. Furthermore, he had a fifth soul skill. Then, let me see what other special abilities you have. Wang Feng waved his hand. Although his body was immune to flames, his opponent's flames had other abilities, and he was not immune to them. Yan's body was extremely tough now, and was not inferior to Zhang Xiaoyan's. In fact, he was even stronger. Wang Feng charged forward once again and leapt high into the air. The mysterious underworld spike in his hand became extremely huge. His strength poured out, and he smashed the hammer down with all his might. There's still time tonight. Please count the tickets. End of chapter. Chapter 437. Wang Feng used his full strength. With this hammer, even a rank 60 soul master would be dead. But Yan was from the martial soul hall's golden generation. His martial soul and soul power were the best among his peers. This hammer attack covered the sun in his line of sight. The violent airflow exploded from the hammer, and a series of violent sounds exploded in the air. Yin was startled. He didn't dare to be careless. He circulated his soul power with all his might, and his fourth soul skill was already at its peak. His entire body shone with a golden red light, making him look like a red-hot copper man. The second yellow soul ring on his body suddenly lit up, and a red light barrier lit up on his body. Soul skill, Flame Barrier. It was also a defensive soul skill used to block the enemy's attack. It was similar to Dai Mubai's Protective Barrier. In addition to defense, it could also increase one's strength by 30%. Two defensive soul skills superimposed, and Yin was barely able to breathe a sigh of relief. But when the hammer came crashing down, his expression changed once more, because he saw that the hammer's surface was suddenly covered with dense spikes. Under these spikes, the flame barrier around his body was directly shattered. It couldn't even resist for half a second. A light flashed through Yan's mind. This is the transformation of his soul bone. He used this move last time and easily broke the God Wind Academy's martial soul fusion skill with 4 hammers. Before he could think clearly, the spikes disappeared, and the hammer directly hit his chest. Bang! It was like 2 pieces of iron and stone had struck each other. There was a stuffy cough, and Yan's chest visibly caved in. Boom! His whole body was directly sent flying. Because it hit Yan's chest diagonally, when Yan was sent flying, he was sent flying in a slightly curved parabola. But Wang Feng didn't stop. The huge hammer in his hand turned, and directly turned into 2 long spears. Wang Feng landed on the ground and swung his arms. The 2 long spears broke through the air. Wang Feng still didn't stop. The black light in his hand condensed, and once again formed a pitch-black bow. Xiao xiao xiao. 3 long arrows directly formed a triangle and shot towards the flying Yin. This was the combo that Wang Feng had thought of these days, using the mysterious underworld spike to form. Using the dark nether spike to form a 10,000-pound hammer, he could knock the enemy away and then quickly form other weapons to deal great damage to the enemy in the air. This required an extremely strong reaction speed and high-intensity practice. With Wang Feng's current physical fitness, he was able to execute such a seamless combo. 2 long black spears with blunt tips struck Yan's hands. 2 of the 3 arrows landed on Yan's feet, while the last one hit his lower abdomen. Rumble. Yan directly smashed on the ground, his 4 limbs twitching incessantly. His entire body was bent like a cooked prawn. No matter how strong his 4th soul skill was, it was impossible for him to remain unscathed after being hit so many times. Especially when he was sent flying by the 5,000-kilogram hammer. It could be said that all of his soul force had been channeled to his chest to resist the hammer's attack. When he was sent flying, he simply did not have the mental strength to defend against the remaining attacks. This was the damage caused by the mysterious dark spy combo. After this combo, Yin only felt that his 4 limbs were about to break. Intense pain came from all over his body. Wang Feng started with the hammer because it was very strong. Its attack area was concentrated and brutal. It could unleash the full force of 5,000 kilograms, making it difficult for the enemy to defend. Simply put, It was to stun the enemy. It was used to break domineering soul skills like the raging flame body. Such domineering soul skills could greatly increase the enemy's defensive strength and make it difficult to shake him. He had to fully unleash the advantage of the mysterious underworld armor. Whether it was spears, swords, blades, spears, or other weapons, they were not as effective as the hammer. However, Wang Feng did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he waited. Everyone focused their gazes. Is he waiting for the enemy to use his 10,000-year soul skill? Ning Fengji whispered. Uncle Jian, this person's body should be fire-resistant, right? He's the same as Tang San. The sword Douluo nodded slightly. With their experience as title Douluo, they could not miss out on any detail in the battle earlier. On the other side, Bibi Don and the other two title Douluo were very calm. They knew every match in the finals very well. Naturally, they had already analyzed 9-to-1 strength and how strong he could be. Although the current situation was a little unexpected, it was not beyond their expectations. It was just that Yan was defeated too quickly. 9-to-1 completely understood Yan's soul skill. However, 9-to-1 did not continue to attack at this time. Evidently, he was waiting. He was waiting confidently and powerfully. On the other side, the other two members of the Golden Generation were very upset. Although Yan's soul power rank was only one rank lower than Evil Moon's, their overall strength was almost the same. This was because Evil Moon had a tool soul. Without a tool soul true body, it could not be compared to a beast soul. Therefore, when they saw Yan being crushed like this without any strength to fight back, and now he was like a pig being reared, waiting to use his fifth soul skill, they could not accept it. Naturally, they could not accept it. At this time, Yin, who was lying on the ground, finally revealed his pitch-black martial soul. A 10,000-year soul skill was a turning point for a soul master. As this soul ring shone, Yan's body suddenly seemed to split open. Countless cracks appeared, like the cracks on the surface of magma. Scarlet magma-like blood overflowed from the surface, and then his body burned with fierce flames. From afar, he looked like a man on fire. Soul skill, soul ignition, Yin shouted angrily. Under the support of the 10,000-year soul, he seemed to have become a real flame lord. But this was not a martial soul true body. It was a special 10,000-year soul skill. To use this skill, special conditions were required. First, he needed to reach the peak of his anger. Second, the body had to suffer a fatal attack. This was the second characteristic of the Flame Lord martial soul after he obtained the 10,000-year soul ring. It could absorb the opponent's strength. When it reached a certain point, it could use this strength to activate the 50,000-year soul skill. And the fifth soul skill, soul ignition, could increase one's strength and defense by 100%. It could cause the skin to burn, greatly weaken physical attacks, and cause the body to lose the sense of pain. It also had a certain long-range attack ability. Because it was a soul skill that needed to be accumulated before it could be used, it could be said to be very powerful. Simply put, one had to be beaten to a certain extent before it could be used. It was a soul skill that could really turn the tables. But after using this skill, one would need to rest for at least a day to recover. Wang Feng was very surprised. This golden generation was not simple. This soul skill really looked like a 10,000-year soul skill. In a chapter. Chapter 438. Although he did not know the specific effects, he could feel that Yin had become stronger again. Once such a turnaround move was used, it would definitely be able to kill the enemy instantly. Normally, after beating up the opponent, a normal soul master would be in a state of exhaustion. Using such a soul skill at this time was simply too powerful. Roar! Yin roared hoarsely and stomped his feet. Boom! Hot magma suddenly burst out from under Wang Feng's feet. Wang Feng frowned slightly and jumped lightly. The black light under his feet condensed into a small shield. The magma exploded on the shield, and Wang Feng used this huge impact to attack Yin again. Long-range attack. It was indeed a very good 10,000-year soul skill. Boom, boom, boom. At this time, A few more streams of magma exploded from the ground, but Wang Feng accurately predicted them all. He stepped on the shield and used the momentum brought by the explosion of the magma to directly smash down on Yin with the hammer again. But this time, Yin did not fly out. Instead, he retreated more than 10 meters, and his chest was smashed into a depression. Roar! But Yin did not seem to feel anything and attacked Wang Feng again. With every step he took, a magma pillar would appear on the ground and then explode. No sense of pain. Wang Feng was a little surprised. Also, his body automatically absorbed most of the force of the giant hammer. Is this enough to be immune to some physical attacks? This soul skill is indeed quite strong. Probably after testing out Yan's soul skill, Wang Feng's eyes turned cold. Looking at Yan, who was attacking him, he did not hesitate. The god-slaying spear in his hand flashed, and the tip of the spear was like a cold light that easily cut his opponent's arm. Flames curled up. Clearly, his opponent was not immune to the god-slaying spear's attack in his current state. His wound was broken, and the pain hit his soul. Although he had lost his sense of pain, it was only his body that had lost it, not his soul. Yin covered the wound on his arm and groaned. The skin on his body quickly recovered to its original state. After returning to his original state, his body was covered in wounds. He looked at Wang Feng with fear in his eyes. Duh. Yin took a few steps back and sat on the ground. He endured the pain from the god-slaying spear and did not cry out. I lost. Yan's voice trembled as he squeezed out a few words. Seeing this, the audience was in an uproar. Evil Moon and Hulaina hurried forward to support Yin, and then several healing-type soul masters came over one after another. This gun again, Ning Fengji whispered. Uncle Jian, can you see anything about this spear? 2 days ago, when you weren't around, this kid also used this spear to easily defeat a soul master from the Star Luo Empire who possessed the Berserk Beast martial soul. This spear, the sword Douluo furrowed his brows slightly. That spear is imbued with a dense, baleful aura, and it possesses extremely powerful offensive power. He only used his spear to lightly graze Yan's skin, yet he was able to inflict a wound on him. However, such a small wound had caused Yan so much pain and injury. It's really incredible. I'm afraid the offensive power of this spear is not inferior to my 7-kill sword. It also possesses some special effects. The two of them were communicating via voice transmission. Hearing this, Ning Fengji's expression became even more solemn. This 9-1 split was really too terrifying. At this moment, not only the two of them, but even Pope Bibidon was looking at the mysterious spear in Wang Feng's hand, and a strange look appeared in his eyes. As for the other two titled Dalu, other than the ghost Dalu, he couldn't tell what they were thinking. The chrysanthemum Douluo furrowed his brows slightly. I'll go. Evil Moon walked out with an extremely gloomy expression. Although the 9-1 split didn't seem to be too heavy, Yan's situation was very strange, and he had already been carried to the back for treatment. Brother, be careful. Hulaina furrowed her brows and said, that 9-1 split is very strange. Evil Moon nodded. He knew this without needing to be reminded. Walking onto the square, the two moon blades in his hands flashed with a cold light. Use your most powerful soul skills. A hoarse voice slowly sounded from his opponent's mouth. Evil Moon's face flashed with anger. When 9-1 split. Then I'll show you. Yin was injured. The three of them had fought side by side for many years, but there was still some camaraderie between them. Initially, he wanted to hide his strength, but he couldn't care less now. With that, the 4 soul rings on Evil Moon's body lit up one after another. As an assault-type tool martial soul, there were relatively few amplification-type soul skills. Most of them were focused on various special attacks. Soul skill, Moon Shadow. The first yellow soul ring suddenly lit up. Evil Moon suddenly threw out the moon blade in his hand. In an instant, the moon blade transformed into dozens of light shadows, appearing from all angles, making it difficult to distinguish the real from the fake. If he attacked like this, it would be very difficult for the enemy to defend. because there were only two real ones here. But Evil Moon didn't attack. Instead, he released his second soul skill, Moon Dance. The second yellow soul ring suddenly lit up. Dozens of light shadows quickly condensed and suddenly danced in the air. Like dozens of moon blades, they spun and danced in the air, cutting out countless air forces. Moon Dance allowed his two moon blades to stay in midair, and through high-speed rotation, enhanced their attack power and confusion. The combination with his first soul skill was the most perfect. The combination of these two moves could completely trap the enemy in these moon blades and strangle them. In addition to having a continuous attack, it also had a super strong control ability. But it was still not over. Immediately afterward, the two purple 1,000-year soul rings on Evil Moon's body lit up one after another. Soul skill, Blood Moonblade. Soul skill, Shattered Moon Star. The countless moon blades suddenly emitted rays of bloodthirsty light. Each moon blade also shone with a dark light, like a star. Of these two soul skills, one of them was an amplification of the Moonblade's ability. Not only could it increase the attack power, but it also had a simple bloodthirsty effect. Once it attacked the enemy, it would cause the enemy to fall into a state of crazy bleeding. The Shattered Moon Star was similar to a soul skill after it was activated. Every Moonblade was broken down into fragments and attacked indiscriminately. Each of Evil Moon's skills could be released individually, and they were all very powerful. But the advantage of a Tool Martial Soul over a Beast Martial Soul was that it could release a complete set of soul skill combo. Once it was used, the effect would be multiplied. Evil Moon's set of soul skill combo included control, confusion, attack, and various other special effects. Not only did it have extremely high lethality to a single person, but it also had a devastating effect on a group. To be able to become a member of the Golden Generation with a Tool Martial Soul, Evil Moon still had some skills. Attack. A sharp light flashed in Evil Moon's eyes. With a thought, countless Moonblades were ready to be released. Do you think I don't know how to use so many tricks? Wang Feng smiled. End of this chapter. Chapter 439. Wang Feng waved his sleeves as he saw the countless Moonblades coming towards him. Countless black lights flashed and attacked the dozens of spinning Moonblades. The mysterious underworld spike wasn't inferior in terms of quantity. Furthermore, his opponent's soul skill had a very fatal flaw. Only two of the crescent blades were real, while the rest were illusions formed from soul power. Even though they were enhanced by a few soul skills and possessed offensive capabilities, they were still a type of energy body. The mysterious underworld spike specialized in breaking this type of energy. The black lights clashed with the countless Moonblades. Instantly, a dazzling light exploded in the air, and the countless Moonblades were penetrated by the black lights. Ping, ping, ding, ding. The sharp sound was like an irregular melody. After only a few seconds, all the blood-colored Moonblades were destroyed, and only two real Moonblades were left, dancing and spinning in the air. Evil Moon was stunned when he saw this scene. He didn't expect his four-skill combo to be so easily broken by his opponent. How was he going to continue this fight? Naturally, he could also see those black lights clearly. They were short thorns, densely packed together and uncountable. No wonder his soul bone could change into various forms. However, such a large number of short thorns required soul power to control. Did he have enough soul power? A rank 45 soul master only needed a trace of soul power to control so many short thorns. Evil Moon might not even be able to do it if he was at rank 56. Evil Moon broke out in cold sweat. He wasn't stupid and could naturally analyze these problems. How could a rank 45 soul master's soul power be more durable than a rank 56 soul master's? However, his soul power rank must have been tested, and it couldn't be fake. This meant that his opponent's soul power was strange. No wonder he was so strong. Do you still have any soul skills? Wang Feng's hoarse voice was like a song from hell, and it made Evil Moon shiver. Evil Moon took a deep breath and withdrew his two Moonblades. Immediately after, He gently pierced the tip of the crescent blade into his chest, although it was very light. Although it was very light, it still pierced his skin. Blood gushed out from the tip and flowed into the entire moonblade. In just a moment, this silver-white moonblade had truly become a blood-colored blade. Pitch-black soul rings suddenly lit up from his body. Evil Moon's eyes glowed with a bloody light, and his whole body was surrounded by a visible purple-red aura. Soul skill, Mad Devil Evil Moon. Evil Moon muttered the name of the soul skill, which was full of a childish aura, and his face became evil. Wang Feng frowned slightly. At this time, Evil Moon's aura soared in an instant. His overall strength had at least doubled. Ha ha! Evil Moon's figure flashed and attacked Wang Feng at an extremely fast speed. He even laughed evilly. Seeing this, Wang Feng was a little surprised. Evil Moon was only a tool soul master, but his speed was comparable to a rank 60 agility-type soul master. There was also a series of evil smiles on his face, which was incomparably demonic. Then, Evil Moon attacked Wang Feng. His attack speed was extremely fast, one move after another, interspersed with a few other soul skills from time to time. Clearly, he had entered a special state of attack. It was similar to the emptiness realm, but in comparison, it was many times worse. But it had to be said that Evil Moon's combat strength was extremely strong at this time. Evidently, this 10,000-year soul skill wasn't simple at all. As they fought, Wang Feng defended and Evil Moon attacked. But Wang Feng slowly perceived the effect of Evil Moon's soul skill, Mad Devil Evil Moon. As the name suggests, enter a state of madness. Speed, strength, and reaction are greatly improved. Although the soul skill couldn't be used at will, several soul skills could be interspersed in the attack, which was impossible to guard against. Even a rank 60 soul master would find it difficult to withstand this kind of reaction attack from the opponent. At this time, Evil Moon was already comparable to Wang Feng's first-grade strength. Only his strength was slightly inferior. He was a little stronger than Zhang Xiaotian, who had been enhanced to the limit before, but the opponent's soul power was draining very quickly. This was a strong, explosive soul skill. It didn't last long, but it was really strong. With his first-grade strength, it was no exaggeration to say that among the 7 people, Tang San was the only one who could withstand it with the Tang Sect's martial arts. These 3 people are each stronger than the other. Little San and the others, it seems, to depend on this Ulaina. Wang Feng estimated in his heart while leisurely dodging Evil Moon's attacks. Suddenly, he found that it seemed that Tang San and the others were really in danger. At this time, seeing that 9 openings was defending, many soul masters of the Martial Spirit Hall finally breathed a sigh of relief. Especially on the Martial Spirit Hall Academy side. Brother's 5th soul skill has a super explosive power. Even a rank 60 soul emperor would find it difficult to resist. Hulaina was a little excited. I didn't expect that 9 openings could be dodged to this extent. It seems that we have a chance to win. The reason why Yin and Evil Moon were so desperate was that, first, Shrek was not present and couldn't see. Second, as long as they won, they could rest and prepare for tomorrow's final. At that time, they would be the winners. Third, as members of the Golden Generation, they naturally didn't want to lose. However, bang, as Wang Feng thought about it, he suddenly loosened his grip and threw a punch at Evil Moon at full speed. The speed of this punch was suddenly several times faster. With Evil Moon's current state, he couldn't react at all. It directly caused Evil Moon to be sent flying with one punch, and then he fell on the Martial Spirit Hall Academy's side, at Hulaina's feet. Hulaina, sorry, I accidentally used second gear, Wang Fengxin thought to himself. Since Evil Moon's eruption, Wang Feng had been thinking about whether Tang San and the others could beat the Martial Spirit Hall Academy's team. In a moment of carelessness, he hid his Xianming armor and directly used second gear in an instant. There was another period of silence. Everyone present was stunned. Wasn't Evil Moon finally evenly matched with Jiui Kai? Why was he suddenly defeated? 9 openings was still hiding his strength. The Swordor was a little speechless, Fengji, there's really something wrong with 9 openings. There's a big problem. Ning Fengji was also silent. Wang Feng had used a similar attack method against Tang Sand in the previous rank advancement competition. He suddenly hid his Xianming armor and entered second gear, causing the speed of his punch to increase tremendously. It was like a rocket entering the second stage of acceleration. It was impossible to guard against. It was also very strange and extremely difficult to detect. Only a titled Douluo, like the sword Douluo, could detect the clues in an instant. If it were other people, they might not be able to detect it because it was too fast. At most, it would take a few tenths of a second to react. Mysterious soul bone, sudden increase in strength, 10,000-year soul ring, strange spear martial soul. What else did he have? What else was he hiding? Ning Fengji asked silently in his heart. Evil Moon lost. He lost completely. After attacking a large circle, 9 openings didn't lose a single hair. Instead, he was sent flying by a punch. End of this chapter. Chapter 440. On the side of the martial spear hall, there was dead silence. Among the 3 people of the Golden Generation who were awarded the Purple Merit Badge by the Pope, only Hulaina was left. The other 2 were completely defeated. They used all their strength and even used their 10,000-year soul rings, but it was still useless. Hulaina suddenly felt that Jiu Ikai was a little scary, just like the analysis of the teachers of the older generation in the hall. The strength of this 9-to-1 chance was far greater than the strength of each of them combined. Originally, it was just an analysis, but now after seeing it with her own eyes, she could feel that kind of power and fear. Sister, admit defeat. Evil Moon said weakly. You can't beat him. Save your strength. You can still fight with Shrek in the afternoon. Hulaina was stunned. Admit defeat? She was the Pope's direct disciple, the holy maiden of the martial spirit hall. How could she admit defeat like this? No, I want to give it a try. Hulaina walked up slowly. She was a control type, a very strong control type, so she might as well give it a try. Even if she lost, she had nothing to say, but she couldn't admit defeat like this. Hulaina walked onto the square. She was already the last person of the Golden Generation. She, who had a super strong control ability, didn't have any offensive ability, but this didn't mean that she couldn't defeat the enemy. On the contrary, among the 3 Golden Generations, her talent was the highest and her strength was the strongest. Because even Evil Moon and Yin were not immune to her control ability, especially the current her. Seeing Hulaina walk onto the stage, Bibidin's eyes softened slightly. If she admitted defeat directly, Bibidon would be very disappointed. As a member of the Golden Generation, if she didn't even have the courage to face the enemy, then there was no need to be her disciple. Moreover, the Martial Spirit Hall had the best healing type, Soul Sage, and many heaven and earth treasures. No matter how many injuries they had, they could quickly recover. Of course, this was a bit of cheating, but the 3 of them were originally from the Martial Spirit Hall, so it didn't matter. On the square, the 2 confronted each other. Hulaina didn't know why, but when she looked at Jiu Kai's cold eyes, she felt a special killing intent. It was very faint. It was very faint, but it made her heart jump slightly. The moment the red-robed bishop shouted to start, Hulaina quickly released her martial soul, and the 4 soul rings on her body lit up one by one. Her 4 soul rings were purely used to strengthen her spiritual power, and at the same time, to strengthen her heavenly fox's seductive ability. Even those rank 60 soul warriors with extremely strong spiritual willpower were unable to resist such an enormous boost in power. They would all be affected to varying degrees. Streaks of red light were released from Hulaina's eyes. She looked directly at 9-1 Kai. However, he was slightly shocked, because the other party didn't attack immediately. Instead, he just stood there and looked at her. Seeing this, Hulaina did not hesitate. The charming light in her eyes looked directly at Jiu Kai. Her lips parted slightly, and she let out a low call. Her charm was all-encompassing and not just limited to a single glance. It also included the mist that spread in the air the sound, and her every movement. Among them, the mist could block breathing. You can close your eyes and not look at the action. However, the sound could not be blocked. Wang Feng roughly understood Hu Laina's special and powerful charm ability. Her voice was transmitted through a method similar to sound waves. Even if one blocked their ears, it could still be transmitted through their bones, causing a soul master's entire body to feel weak and numb. This would then affect their mind and cause them to fall into her charm. Simply put, sound could be transmitted through air and bones. Hu Laina's voice contained two types. Therefore, it was useless to just block one's ears. She could still charm you. It was just that the effect would be slightly reduced. Compared to Xiao Wu's pure charm soul skill, it was much, much stronger. This was the reason why Hu Laina was so strong. However, this was useless against Wang Feng. This was because all of this was based on Hu Laina's spiritual power surpassing her opponents. Wang Feng had the black-banded spiritual skull, so his spiritual power was too strong. Hu Laina looked at Wang Feng, whose eyes were still clear, and was shocked. How could it not have any effect at all? Suddenly, Hu Laina frowned, and her fifth soul ring lit up again. A soft fox's cry sounded from her body. Instantly, even the red-robed bishop's eyes wavered for a few seconds. After that, he regained his senses and looked at Hu Laina in shock. He was a soul sage, but he was still affected by Hu Laina for a few seconds. Although it was only a few seconds, it was already very exaggerated. There was a difference of more than 20 ranks between the two of them. However, Hu Laina's spiritual power had already reached the level of a red-robed bishop. However, Wang Feng's eyes became even gloomier, an aura similar to Shui Bing-er's. This soul ring also had an aura similar to Shui Bing-er's fourth soul skill. He could feel the aura of stars even more clearly. What a strong soul skill, Ning Fengji whispered. This girl's fifth soul ring is probably not simple. The sword Douluo nodded slightly. His expression was a little serious. There's also the aura of a soul beast. This girl's martial soul must have mutated. She should have a skull, and there's still some remnant aura of a soul beast in it. This soul skill is strengthened because of this. It's really strange. I'm afraid this soul beast is a perfect match for her. It even became a soul ring on its own. Otherwise, her soul skill wouldn't be so strong. Even a soul sage over rank 70 can cause some effect. The plaza was very close, and the sword couldn't sense it clearly. He glanced at Pope Don, who nodded slightly. He didn't say anything, but there was a hint of pride in his eyes. After all, this was her disciple, and she had nurtured him with all her heart. Even a soul sage over rank 70 couldn't resist her. Could Wang Feng resist her? As long as he was bewitched, Hu Laina only needed to control him and make him say, "I admit defeat." However, at this moment, a crisp whistle sounded. The sudden whistle broke the silence in the plaza. It was like a bolt of lightning in the silent sky, awakening everything in the world. Hu Laina's expression changed, and her face turned red. She spat out a mouthful of blood, and her mind was shaken. Her mind was in chaos. Even her pitch-black soul rings were shaking. She took a few steps back, and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. She held her head and felt a splitting headache. Everyone was stunned when they saw this. Even the Pope Don was stunned. He didn't expect this at all. Only Ning Fengji stood up suddenly. It appeared again, a whistle to break someone's soul skill. Ning Fengji was watching when Jiui fought against Skywater Academy. At that time, even Gu Rong couldn't explain the situation. Ning Fengji once thought that this was one of the 10 unsolved mysteries in the world of soul masters. He looked at the sword Dalu and found that the famous sword Dalu, Chen Xen, was also stunned at this moment. End of chapter. Chapter 441. Obviously, he didn't understand either. It was really an ordinary whistle. Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo didn't understand either. Even the Don didn't see any problem, because there were no soul power fluctuations. How'd he do it? Hu Laina fainted. The red-robed bishop directly turned into a light shadow and supported Hu Laina. After checking her, he said in a deep voice, "Her spirit suffered a backlash, but it's not a big deal." He said to the BB Don. The BB Don nodded slightly. After saying that, the red-robed bishop, who was the referee, looked at Wang Feng again and had to announce, "Purple Star College wins." Just like that, 9-1 Kai won and entered the finals. All the Soul Masters present looked at 9-1 Kai's back as he slowly walked down the square. For a moment, they didn't know what to say. The 3 Golden Generation members of the Martial Soul Hall were defeated by him, just like that, and Wu Shang defeated them. When the news reached the ears of Tang San and the others who were resting at this moment, they were directly stunned. Wu Shang defeated them. Ma Hongjun swallowed. Rong, did your father really say this? They were sent back by the BB Don in advance and didn't see any battle scenes. Father said it himself. Ning Rong nodded and pouted. I wanted to ask Father how he defeated them and what their soul skills were, but he didn't say. Ning Fengji definitely wouldn't tell Ning Rong this kind of thing. If he said it, it would be equivalent to taking the initiative to offend the Pope, which was a very unwise choice. Is the Golden Generation too weak? Or is 9-1 Kai too strong? Oscar pinched his chin and thought, but the Golden Generation is still a Soul King over rank 50. Although it's a one-on-one battle, it's impossible for them to be defeated by Wu Shang, right? Let's calculate the time. Dai Mubai looked at the sky. It's been less than an hour since we came down, and Uncle Ning sent us the message. Deducting the process of the message transmission, it might be even shorter, which means that 9-1 Kai defeated 3 people in a row in less than an hour. Thinking of this, Dai Mubai was a little speechless. How we fight this? Ning Rong suddenly walked to the master and said coquettishly, "Master, if we beat the Martial Spirit Palace team this afternoon, why don't you let Wang Feng play in the finals? Otherwise, there was no way he could win." Tang Sen was also a little silent. When he heard the news from Ning Fengji, his first reaction was that it might really be impossible for him to win the championship. They were confident that they could defeat the Martial Spirit Palace, but they had no chance of defeating 9-1. Logically speaking, the 7 of them felt that their confidence was being squeezed bit by bit as they watched 9-1 Kai become stronger and stronger. Grandmaster was silent. He opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. Suddenly, no. Grandmaster's face suddenly changed, and he scolded sternly. "You guys, whenever you're in trouble, you think of Lin Feng. Without him, wouldn't you be Shrek's 7 monsters? How laughable. Rong, especially you must not have such thoughts. You must believe in yourselves." Grandmaster pointed at Flender and the others and continued to say sternly, "Look at Dean Flender, Master Erlong, and Zhao Wuji. They've trained you hard for the past 2 years. You've suffered, but didn't they suffer? Now you're saying such discouraged words. Are you worthy of the teachers? Are you worthy of Lin Feng?" Hearing Grandmaster's anger, the 7 of them immediately lowered their heads in shame. You're not only representing the 7 of you, you're also representing Shrek, and you're also representing our teachers. You can choose to admit defeat for the sake of tactics, but when facing the real enemy, you must not be timid at all. You must believe in yourselves. You could defeat 9-1 Kai. No one is invincible. Grandmaster's eyes were like torches as he looked at them. Seeing this, the 7 of them suddenly felt a surge of excitement in their hearts, and their faces flushed. Teacher is right. We were wrong. Tangsen took a deep breath. No one is invincible. Even if 9-1 Kai is defeated, we Shrek's 7 monsters will definitely have a way. Without Brother Feng, we can definitely defeat him. The other 6 nodded heavily. Grandmaster looked at the 7 of them with relief. Martial Spirit Hall, Healing Hall. BB Don looked at Hu Laina, who was lying on the bed and had basically completely recovered, and asked calmly, "Laina, what's the situation?" "Teacher." Hu Laina sat up gently from the bed. "Lie down and tell me the situation directly." BB Don supported Hu Laina's shoulder. A whistle could break a 10,000-year soul skill. Such a bizarre thing had never happened in the world of Soul Masters. It was too absurd. BB Don naturally asked Hu Laina about the specific situation at that time. After all, there were some things that only the person who knew clearly. Yes, Hulaina recalled that time and said softly, "When 9-1 Kai whistled, I felt that my consciousness was shaken. It should be Xing Xing's consciousness." That soul beast? Bibi Don frowned slightly, and his voice was slightly cold. As expected, it's the soul beast consciousness that's causing trouble. I'll directly extract its consciousness. No, teacher, don't. Hulaina's beautiful face turned pale. Xing Xing's soul ring and soul bone caused my martial soul to mutate and become stronger. I can't hurt it. If I extract Xing Xing's consciousness, my martial soul will weaken and degenerate. My soul ring might even explode, and my spirit will be severely injured. Furthermore, I promised Xing Xing. I'm already familiar with it now. Hearing this, Bibidon frowned and snorted. Your current situation is very complicated, Bibidon said slowly. Originally, there was a person who understood martial souls very well. I wanted him to help you take a look at your situation, but he might not be willing. If your fifth soul skill continues to have such a flaw and is broken by 9-1 Kai's whistle, it means that he will always have something against you. I don't know how he did it, but it should be related to your soul beast. Hulaina nodded slightly. After the competition ends, I'll let him stay and take a look at your situation. Bibidon's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. I can't let my disciple leave any evidence for others to use against her. If I can't extract this soul beast consciousness, it can't live. Hearing this, Hulaina was stunned and suddenly said, "Teacher, I think 9-1 Kai is a little special. According to my guess, he might know Xing Xing. When the time comes, can you let me talk to him personally?" Bibidon looked at his beloved disciple and nodded slowly. End of chapter. Chapter 442. In the afternoon, Wang Feng went to watch the battle with Tang San and the others this time. A 9-1 draw was not allowed, but Wang Feng was allowed to be a substitute. In fact, he still had to rely on the Black Hoop spiritual skull. Even if he didn't use the Shadowma's soul skill, the skull could make his aura slightly illusory. Otherwise, with the strength of a titled Dalu, even if he was wearing a black robe and a mask, they should be able to detect some clues from his aura. In addition, when he showed his red lotus martial soul during the test, no one noticed anything wrong. Of course, it was impossible for him to make a move. However, Wang Feng didn't tell Tang San and the others about the 3 soul skills he learned from the Golden Generation, because there was no need for that. Wang Feng did a little calculation. With the injuries of the 3 in the morning and Yin being hit by his god-killing spear, Shrek's 7 monsters had a chance to win. It was less than 4 hours in the middle. The injuries of the Golden Generation couldn't be recovered so quickly. However, when Wang Feng and Tang San came to the square in the afternoon, they were shocked. Yin, Evil Moon, and Hulaina were standing on one side of the square, unharmed. It was a little exaggerated to say that they were unharmed because their faces were a little pale and their auras were a little weaker, but at least they had recovered most of their strength. Even the wound caused by the god-killing spear was sealed by special aura. It must be the work of a titled Douluo. However, Yan's face was still a little twisted. Obviously, his soul was still in pain, but it was suppressed by his injuries, so the pain was a lot weaker. The Martial Spirit Hall is really willing to pay a lot. Wang Feng was speechless. The injuries of the 3 in the morning would take at least a day to recover. He didn't expect the Martial Spirit Hall to help them recover in just a few hours. Even a titled Douluo helped. Mistress, then we can only depend on your own performance. Wang Fengxin thought to himself. After both sides were in position, they didn't hesitate and went straight to the arena. There was basically no audience here. Most of them were from the Martial Spirit Hall. Other than Ning Fengji and the others, there were only Master Lu Erlong and a few teachers. Wang Feng was behind the 2 teachers. At this moment, everyone's eyes were on the square. Only a few people's eyes fell on Wang Feng. This kid doesn't plan to fight. Ning Fengji frowned slightly and said, although the 3 members of the Golden Generation were seriously injured in the morning, with the strength of the Martial Spirit Palace, although they can't fully recover, they can still restore most of their combat strength. Tang San's chance of winning is very low. The sword Douluo was also appraising Wang Feng, but he didn't give a reply. Bibidon also glanced at Wang Feng for a moment before retracting his gaze. Because at this time, the competition had already begun. Wang Feng watched with rapt attention. Even if the three of them had recovered most of their fighting strength, Yin and Evil Moon probably wouldn't dare to use their 10,000-year soul rings again. The three of them had yet to fully recover from their injuries. If they continued to use that 10,000-year soul skill, coupled with the fact that their old injuries hadn't healed, they would suffer even greater injuries. When that happened, it wouldn't be something that could be healed with simple healing techniques. The moment the competition began, the first to act was not Hulaina of the Golden Generation. Instead, it was Yin, Evil Moon, and the two soul warriors behind them who were over rank 40. At the same time, Tang San's team of 7 directly formed a circle, with Oscar and Ning Rongrong in the center. The 6 people outside were led by Tang San, followed by Dai Mu Bai, Ma Hongjun, Xiao Wu, and Zhu Zhuqing. The latter grabbed the former's shoulders. Oscar and Ning Rongrong in the center pressed their hands against Tang San's back at the same time. The 9-star glazed pagoda in Ning Rongrong's hand bloomed with 4 rays of light, which fell on Tang San's body. Then, the 7 people's martial souls all lit up. 49 soul rings shone with dazzling light. Tang San, who was in the lead, was enveloped in light, and suddenly let out a long roar. Blue-silver cage. The blue-silver grass in Tang San's palm became incomparably bright, as if it had doubled in size. The instantaneous blue-silver cage trapped Yin and Evil Moon, as well as the 2 agility-type soul masters. In addition to Hulaina, there were 2 auxiliary-type soul masters who directly enhanced the 4 people. Although they were not as strong as Ning Rongrong, they were not bad compared to the disciples of the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. But at this time, Tang San, who was not even rank 44, directly trapped Evil Moon and the other 3 with a blue-silver cage. Logically speaking, with Evil Moon and Yan's strength, they should be able to break through the blue-silver cage in an instant, but they were unable to do so. It's a 7-person fusion skill. Wang Feng nodded slightly. The power of 7 people is concentrated on 1 person, and it's concentrated on Tang San. The others all close their eyes and shut off their 5 senses. This can only be done by completely trusting Little 3. Previously, the Blazing Academy's strength was able to raise Huo Wushuang's strength to more than rank 50 with a special fire-stored fusion skill. With the current strength of 7 people combined on Tang San, it could raise Tang San's strength to more than rank 60 or even close to rank 70. Otherwise, he would not have trapped Yin and the other 3 with a blue-silver cage. Most importantly, Tang San had the purple demon eyes, and his spiritual power was stronger than that of ordinary soul masters, so he could resist Hulaina's charm. If Hulaina could not use her 5th soul skill, it would be difficult for her to affect Tang San and the other 7 people. This was the best way to defeat the Golden Generation. Otherwise, with the huge gap in soul power, Tang San and the others had a very low chance of winning. Obviously, the 3 members of the Golden Generation did not expect Tang San and the others to have such a trump card, so they were a little overwhelmed. Hulaina frowned slightly and took a few steps forward. Her 4 soul rings lit up one after another, and streaks of red fog and whispers spread towards the 7 people. But at this moment, the 7 of them were one. Other than Tang San, the other 5 had closed their 5 senses and were connected mentally. It was not realistic to use charm to affect them. Hulaina planned to release charm to interrupt their soul skills during the battle, because her soul skills had already been exposed. If she released them immediately, her opponents would be prepared. If she did not release them, they would be on tenterhooks and would not be able to fight wholeheartedly. But she did not expect them to use a 7-person martial soul fusion skill immediately. Although it was not a 7-person martial soul fusion skill, it seemed to be very strong. "Brother, be careful," Hulaina shouted and hurriedly reminded him. Tang San's strength has reached around rank 65, and every one of his soul skills is very strong. Also, be careful of his clear sky hammer. Got it. Evil Moon's eyes flashed, and he activated Moon Dance. Two moon blades created waves of energy in the air, and all the vines in the blue-silver cage were shattered. In a chapter. Chapter 443. On the other side, Yin wasn't having a good time. His blue-silver grass was resistant to fire, so he couldn't burn the blue-silver cage. He could only rely on his strength to tear the blue-silver cage apart with the help of his raging flame body and flame barrier. The other two soul masters weren't so lucky. They were completely controlled by the blue-silver cage. Just as Yin and Evil Moon were fighting, Tang San gathered his strength and launched the binding cobweb toward them. At the same time, Tang San's blue-silver grass disappeared, and a hammer appeared in his hand. It was the clear sky hammer. Tang San's idea was very simple. He wanted to use the fusion skill of the 7 of them to defeat the 3 of them quickly. In addition, he had the Tang Sek's martial skills. Whether it was the controlling crane capturing dragon or the ghost shadow perplexing track, they were very powerful. He could definitely defeat the 2 rank 55 soul masters. For this, Tang San poured his soul power into the clear sky hammer crazily. As his soul power continued to pour in, the clear sky hammer slowly became bigger. In the end, it became a giant hammer that was a few meters long. It was dark gold and emitted an extremely powerful aura. Seeing this, many people's expressions changed. Clear sky hammer true body. Ning Fengji whispered, the 7 of them can actually make Tang San use the clear sky hammer true body. It seems like a martial soul hall is going to lose this battle. The clear sky hammer was known as the #1 tool martial soul in the continent. Once it revealed its true body, the power it could release would be unimaginable. Normally, only rank 70 tool martial souls would have a tool soul true body. At that time, it would be a turning point for tool martial soul masters. However, Tang San's clear sky hammer true body was weaker now because his soul power hadn't reached rank 70 yet. It was just that the 7 of them could barely reach it. Clear sky hammer true body. Wang Feng's heart skipped a beat when he saw this. If my rank was higher, would I be able to use the Pango Axe true body when I use it? Wang Feng had only used the Pango Axe twice. Every time, there would be a heaven-shaking phenomenon. Wang Feng didn't dare to use it casually. However, from the perspective of martial spirits, the Pangu Axe was indeed a tool martial spirit. Logically speaking, it should also have a true form. One had to know that the last 2 times, Wang Feng had only used his soul power to materialize the Pangu Axe to attack. It was only a small axe. If he had enough soul power, would he be able to condense the true form of the Pangu Axe? Wang Fengxian's heart started to throb. A normal tool soul master would need to be at least rank 70. But in reality, after compressing his soul power to rank 50, his soul power was more durable than a rank 70 soul master. But was Panga's axe true body at level 70 strong enough? Moreover, it should require a special comprehension, right? This was the first time Wang Feng had seen the true form of a tool martial spirit. If he could really unleash the true form of Pangu's axe and transform it into a giant axe that was tens of meters long, he would probably be able to cut the Pontiff Palace in half with a single swing of the axe. However, with Wang Feng's current strength, it was far from possible. He could barely use the normal Pangu axe. Even if he forcefully unleashed the true form of Pangu's axe, Wang Feng would probably die. Even the meteoric tear wouldn't be able to save him. However, with this train of thought, Wang Feng started to ponder and anticipate the Pangu axe a little more. In fact, in terms of martial spirits, the chaotic green lotus was also a tool martial spirit. It also had a martial spirit true body. Furthermore, according to the different forms, the strength of the martial spirit true body would be different. However, Wang Feng still couldn't unleash the true form of his martial spirit true body. For example, the golden lotus, red lotus, black lotus, and soul-killing spear should all have their own special martial spirit true body forms and abilities. Simply put, his soul power wasn't high enough, and his abilities weren't up to standard. Previously, Wang Feng hadn't thought about the martial spirit true body. However, now that he thought about it, it was as if a door had been opened. The various forms and abilities of the chaotic green lotus shouldn't stop here. However, it would take a long time for him to try them out. After all, the Douluo world wasn't very strong in Wang Feng's eyes. Simply put, most titled Douluo couldn't even resist a mushroom. At this moment, the situation changed again as the clear sky body appeared. Tang Xin used his controlling crane, capturing dragon and ghost shadow perplexing track with his clear sky hammer true body. With 2 strikes, he sent Yin and Evil Moon flying. Both of them spat out mouthfuls of blood. The strength of the clear sky body had to be respected. Even if Wang Feng used first grade, he wouldn't be able to resist it. After activating second gear, his body entered another state. His speed was greatly increased, and his body's toughness was increased by a level without his mysterious underworld armor. It wasn't easy to fight force with force. However, he could dodge limitlessly, unless he used divinization, the soul-killing spear's soul skill, or the Dark Angel's martial soul. He wouldn't be able to resist the clear sky hammer. The clear sky hammer was 7 to 8 meters long. It was dark gold in color. Just its aura alone made one feel as if it was invincible. Evil Moon and Yin were sent flying. They were injured again. Fortunately, one of the 2 auxiliary-type soul masters was a healer. Although he was only rank 40, he used a healing-type soul skill to heal their injuries. The 3 of us can't use our 10,000-year soul skills. Hulaina said softly, "Use that move. Otherwise, we won't be able to win. Although my martial soul has mutated and isn't very stable, it's just right for the 3 of us to use it. If we don't use it, we might lose." The 3 of them knew the power of the clear sky hammer. Okay, the other 2 nodded. The 3 of them formed a triangle. Their martial souls suddenly lit up at the same time. 15 soul rings intertwined on their bodies. It's a 3-person martial soul fusion skill. Master's face darkened. Little Feng, you deduced that 2 of them had a martial soul fusion skill. I didn't expect these 3 to have a 3-person martial soul fusion skill. Wang Feng's face also became serious. Hulaina's martial soul had mutated. In Wang Feng's impression, it was Hulaina and her brother who had a martial soul fusion skill. But now, he didn't expect it to be a 3-person martial soul fusion skill. Could it be that after the mutation, Hulaina's martial soul compatibility increased? In addition, the 3 of them had been companions for many years, so the 3 of them had a new martial soul fusion skill. If that was the case, then it was hard to say. In the square, the 3 of them were led by Hulaina. A beautiful fox with a star mark on its forehead suddenly jumped out lightly. Immediately after, the flame lord on Yan's body instantly merged into the fox. Evelmun's moonblade also merged into Hulaina's body. The 2 of them disappeared directly. Hulaina's body slowly grew bigger. 3 tails grew out from her back. Flames rose from her body. She held a moonblade in each hand. Her pupils turned pink, and a red mist spread around her body. End of this chapter. Chapter 444. After growing to a height of 2 meters, Hulaina's body finally stopped, and her ears turned into furry fox ears. From afar, she looked like a half-human fox with a deep star mark between her brows. But the strange thing was that her entire body exuded an extremely demonic aura. Martial soul fusion skill, Moonflame Star Fox. A soft murmur sounded. A terrifying aura rose from Hulaina's body. It didn't lose to Tang San at all, and her aura was even stronger. The strength of their martial soul fusion skill was undeniable. Back then, the Golden Iron Triangle, 2 soul sages, and a soul grandmaster who wasn't even rank 30 could resist Douluo with their martial soul fusion skill. Even if the 3 of them weren't at their full strength, they were still very strong. Wang Feng guessed that if they used it at their full strength, they could probably reach rank 80. No wonder they were confident of winning against him in the team battle. If they used this martial soul fusion skill at their full strength in the team battle, Wang Feng would really have to take out some real cards. Unfortunately, the three of them were injured now, and their martial soul fusion skill was weakened by a lot. But compared to the current Tang San, they were still stronger. Such a powerful martial soul fusion skill. No wonder they didn't use it against Huang Do. Wang Feng was a little curious. I wonder who will win. At this moment, Tang San's clear Sky Hammer True Body and Hulaina's Moon Flame Star Fox started fighting. Both sides were almost equal in strength, but in terms of fighting, Tang San had the Tang Sec's martial skills, Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track, and Controlling Crane Capturing Dragon, so he could completely unleash the Clear Sky Hammer. And the Clear Sky Hammer was much stronger than the Moonblade. In addition, Ning Rongrong gave Tang San a boost, so it could be said that he was evenly matched with the Moonflame Star Fox. Hulaina, who had turned into the Moonflame Star Fox, had a new soul skill, and she couldn't use her original soul skill. So for a moment, both sides were very anxious. It was hard to tell who would win. With the Fire Lord's 3-in-1 fusion skill, the Moonflame Star Fox had an extremely strong defense. Even the Clear Sky Hammer True Body couldn't deal a fatal blow to Hulaina. At such a time, it was usually a test of both parties' endurance. In a situation where there was not much difference, the one who could last longer would be the one to win. A moment later, Hulaina was once again sent flying by Tang San's Clear Sky Hammer. Many cracks also appeared on the Moonblade in her hand. Hulaina's expression changed slightly. In the end, it was the Clear Sky Hammer. When the two collided, the Moonblade could not possibly be more powerful than the Clear Sky Hammer. If they continued to fight for a long time, it would be extremely disadvantageous for them. Furthermore, the three of them were already injured, so it was already difficult for them to unleash their martial soul fusion skill. However, Tang San was not having a good time either. His eyes were bloodshot. Obviously, he was about to reach his limit. Both sides had probably reached a climax. However, Little 3 hasn't used his 8th Spider Spear yet. Is he planning to hide it to deal with 911? Wang Feng said in surprise. If he hides the 8th Spider Spear at this time, he will lose. Soon, Hulaina attacked Tang San again. In this state, although Tang San was not affected by her charm at this time, with the strong physical quality and strength after the three of them fused their martial souls, the Moonblade in her hand was not as durable as the Clear Sky Hammer. However, it was still stronger and could last longer. The Moonblade in Hulaina's hand spun, and the flames around her body boiled. The Moonblade brought about a violent flaming storm. As if he wanted to decide the winner with one blow, the Clear Sky Hammer in Tang San's hand seemed to have become bigger. With a terrifying aura, he also attacked Hulaina. Boom! The two figures collided in mid-air like two streams of light. An explosive stream of flame spread out from the square. Then, the storm dispersed, and countless fragments shot out. Wang Feng saw very clearly that those were the fragments of the 8th Spider Spear. After a while, two figures suddenly shot out. It was Tang San and Hulaina. Tang San was the first to kneel on one knee. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and his back was badly mutilated. But in the next moment, Hulaina fell to the ground. The Moonflame Spirit Fox disappeared and turned into two figures. They were lying on the ground with pale faces. It's the 8th Spider Spear, Wang Feng thought. When the two sides collided, Tang San used the 8th Spider Spear to give the opponent a fatal blow. A trump card should be used at a critical moment. However, it was a pity that Hulaina's attack was also extraordinary. She used the Crescent Blade to form a rotating firestorm. As the two clashed, Tang San, who was in the middle of the firestorm, managed to hit the Moonflame Astral Fox with his 8 Spider Spears. However, he was also injured by the Moonflame Astral Fox's Flaming Moonblade. But Tang San did not fall to the ground. Even if the 8th Spider Spear was broken, he still had the strength to fight. On the contrary, the other three people seemed to have no strength to fight. The remaining members of the Martial Spirit Hall Academy were no match for Tang, and even if there were not many of them left. The square was silent for a moment. A Pyrrhic victory, Master murmured. It's really a Pyrrhic victory. Even if the 3 members of the Golden Generation were injured, their chances of winning would be lower if they were not. Master had a strong judgment of the overall situation. Wang Feng's analysis was right. If the Golden Generation were not injured in the morning, Tang San's chances of winning would be too low. Even if they used a 7-person fusion skill, it would be difficult to win. For example, Evelmun's 10,000-year soul skill, or Hulaina's 10,000-year soul skill. Even Tang San would be affected, or Evelmun's 10,000-year soul skill. It would be difficult to deal with them. The gap in soul power was too big. Unfortunately, but it was not easy to fight to this extent. In the spectator's stand, Bibi Don looked calm and remained silent. The other 2 titled Dalu were also silent. Ning Fengji and the sword Douluo were the same. Are we still fighting? Tang San stood up, holding the clear sky hammer in his hand. Although his legs were trembling, he was like a god of death. His eyes were blood-red and emitted a fierce aura. As he spoke, Tang San looked at the broken pieces of the 8th spider spear on the ground. Why not? At this time, Hulaina stood up and said slowly, "We didn't expect your Shrek Academy to be so powerful. You can even use a 7-person fusion skill to fight back and forth with our 3-in-1 martial soul fusion skill. You even used a hidden soul bone to block our attack at the critical moment. If the other party's martial soul was not the clear sky hammer, but another tool martial soul, it would not be able to do this. Moreover, the other party's identity and skills were very strange. If it was someone else, other than Tang San, it would be impossible for them to achieve such a feat." End of this chapter. Chapter 445. It's a pity that this is a team battle, not an individual battle. Hulaina smiled, and her head suddenly lit up. I have a soul bone, and the soul skill of my soul bone can recover the strength of the 3 of us. Wang Feng took a deep breath when he saw this. He didn't expect the soul skill of Hulaina's head to come from Star's strong recovery ability. Star Crescent Foxes had strong recovery abilities. Hulaina's 50,000-year soul ring was Star's spiritual power and seduction ability. Apart from increasing her spiritual power, her skull's true soul skill was recovery and healing. Hulaina didn't use it in the individual battle. Every team had their own trump cards. Tang San had a soul bone, but Hulaina also had a soul bone now. Tang San smiled when he saw this. They were really strong. This Golden Generation was ridiculously strong. Hulaina's skull emitted streaks of star-like light. Within the range of this light, Evil Moon and Yin were recovering at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. Tang San hit his clear sky hammer when he saw this. He squatted down weakly, as if he didn't want to resist anymore. In the next moment, Tang San grabbed the fragments of the 8th spider spear on the ground with both hands. Using the mysterious jade hands, he threw the fragments into the air. It's 2 hidden weapon techniques. Wang Feng's eyes lit up. The torrential pear flowers that I saw at the beginning. The other one should be a hidden weapon technique from the Tang sect. Tang San used both hands to execute the technique, splitting his attention into 2. Each hand released a different hidden weapon technique. These fragments of the 8th spider spear were extremely poisonous. They were also mixed with countless poisons from the ice-fire yin-yang eyes, the man-faced demon spider's poison, and the fire poison and ice poison from the 2 immortal herbs. 27 streaks of light shot towards the 3 of them. The 3 of them were shocked. Tang San's other hand released another hidden weapon technique, but it only shot out less than 10 fragments. However, each fragment had a different trajectory, dancing and spiraling in the air. The 3 of them immediately used their soul power to disperse the 27 fragments released by the torrential pear flowers. However, they couldn't avoid the remaining 10 fragments, because the angle was too tricky. Even the remaining 4 members of the team were the same. His skin was directly cut open. Seeing this, Tang San had a faint smile on his face. The poison entered their bodies and instantly interrupted the release of Hulaina's soul bone. The trio's recovery was directly interrupted. Coupled with the 8 spider spears poison, the situation could be said to be extremely dangerous. However, Tang Sen also fell to the ground powerlessly at this time. The other 6 freaks also came to their senses, but all of their soul power was gone. The situation is very strange. After watching for a while, Wang Feng said in a low voice, "I don't think I can tell who's going to win and who's going to lose." Tang Sen used the 8 spider spear as a hidden weapon and used the last of his strength to interrupt Hulaiina's soul skill release and poison the 3 of them. But at this moment, he had no strength left. Furthermore, although the 3 members of the Golden Generation had been poisoned, they still possessed a certain level of battle prowess. However, if they were to move, the poison would definitely spread rapidly within their bodies. When that happened, it would be impossible to treat them. Therefore, they could not move in the slightest. As for the remaining 4 members of the Martial Spirit Palace, they were not of the Golden Generation and had no ability to resist this kind of poison. The master also nodded solemnly. He also could not tell who was the winner in this situation because both sides had fallen to the ground. The remaining 6 freaks' soul power was drained, and their faces were a little pale, although they could still fight with their physical fitness. At this time, the Golden Generation also had battle prowess. It should be little 3 and the others who won. Wang Feng shook his head and said, "Because if no one admits defeat, the Golden Generation will be the ones to suffer. When the poison invades their internal organs, the 3 of them will be crippled." Sure enough, soon, Hulaiina directly gritted her teeth and admitted defeat. At this point, the curtains of this competition came to an end. In the audience stand in front of the main hall, Bibidan's expression changed slightly. In the end, he just looked deeply at Shrek and the others and did not say anything. At this point, both sides had already fought to their best. "But what will you use to beat me tomorrow?" Wang Fengxin thought that Tang San and the others had used all their trump cards. They used the 7-man combination skill, forced the opponents to use their martial soul fusion skill, and used the 8 spider spear. In the end, they even used the Tang Sek's hidden weapon technique. "What will you use to fight us?" Wang Feng shook his head. If this set of skills was prepared for him, he might have used some of his strength, but now it was all used up, and he probably could not use it at all tomorrow. Once he used second gear, he would have to rest. He did not even need to use second gear. First gear was enough. Speaking of which, this was the second real team battle between Wang Feng and Shrek's 7 freaks. Moreover, Tang San was injured, so he could not use this 7-man combination skill tomorrow. "It seems that I have to help you." Wang Feng sighed and shook his head. At this moment, seeing that everyone was injured, Ning Fengji frowned slightly. He turned his palm, and the 7 treasures glazed pagoda appeared. It turned into a huge pagoda that was more than 10 meters tall. 7 rays of light appeared and covered everyone in different directions. Several rays of light descended, and Tang San, who was lying on the ground, quickly recovered. On the other side, the 3 from the Golden Generation struggled to stand up. Ning Fengji was a rank 79 auxiliary-type soul sage, and his strength was naturally extraordinary. His 7 treasures glazed pagoda had extremely strong healing abilities, and it also had other abilities. It could help Tang San, Hulaiina, and the other 2 suppress their injuries. "Little monster, go and help the 3 of them detoxify the poison." Dugabo walked to the square and said in a deep voice. Although he could detoxify the poison, it would be very troublesome. Tang Sen could use the 8 spider spear to absorb it. Okay. Tang Sen nodded. Under Ning Fengji's healing, he formed another 8 spider spear and walked to Hulaiina and the other 2. He wants to detoxify the poison for the 3 of them. Ning Fengji looked at Bibidan and the 2 titled Douluo and explained. Bibidan was silent. At this moment, Tang Sen walked to the 3 of them and gently pierced the 8 spider spear into their shoulders to absorb the poison. When he passed by Yin, his pupils shrank slightly. This was because he saw that Yin was in extreme pain, and this was obviously not caused by his poison. They fought with Jiu Yi in the morning, and their injuries have not fully recovered. Tang San thought to himself, the martial spirit hall must have helped them suppress their injuries. Otherwise, we would have been defeated today. I don't know how badly the three of them were defeated in the morning, and even the martial spirit hall could not fully heal them. Especially this Yin, he still has a wound on his body. End of chapter. Chapter 446. Tang Xin could see another small wound on Yan's body, which was obviously not caused by him just now. It should be caused by 9 odds. How lucky! Tang San thought to himself. The strength of the 3 people from the Golden Generation was unexpectedly strong. If 9 odds hadn't beaten them until they were riddled with wounds and their injuries hadn't healed, they wouldn't have had any chance. But on second thought, he had used all the moves he should use today. What should he do tomorrow? Tang San's original plan today was to only use the 7-man fusion skill in order to end the battle quickly. However, he didn't expect the other 3 to have a martial soul fusion skill, forcing him to fight head-on. After dragging it out for a long time, he even used the 8 spider spear. Forget about the 8 spider spear. He didn't expect the other party to have their biggest trump card, the soul bone soul skill. If he hadn't grabbed the fragments of the 8 spider spear on the ground and used 2 hidden weapon techniques to hit the 3 people who had recovered some of their strength, he would have definitely lost today. After removing the poison from the 3 people, Tang Xin walked back and gathered with everyone again. There was only silence. Today's battle was out of their expectations. They won by a narrow margin. But there was a question in everyone's mind. What should they do tomorrow? Actually, I have a plan for tomorrow's battle. The 7 of them walked down the square. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing suddenly said. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Wang Feng was also stunned. What were you up to this time? Every time Zhu Zhuqing thought of something, Wang Feng's scalp would tingle. What plan? Zhu Zhuqing continued. Think about it. What is the approximate level of strength of 9 to 1? Tang Xin thought for a moment and said, he should be around rank 70 at the very least. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to defeat so many teams so easily. He was even able to defeat the 3 people from the Golden Generation in the morning. These 3 people are rank 55, but their individual combat strength is definitely rank 60. Everyone nodded. If we include his hidden strength, he should be above rank 70, Dai Mubai said. Zhu Zhuqing nodded lightly. But have you thought about it? Is there a soul master below the age of 25 who is above rank 70? The 3 members of the Golden Generation were all around 22 years old. He was a rank 45 soul master who didn't want to reveal his face, but he was far stronger than his peers. Is that even possible? Everyone was stunned. I suspect that the reason why he's unwilling to reveal his face is most likely because he's over 25 years old. Perhaps he's using some sort of special method to avoid detection. Zhu Zhuqing thought, if we could take off his mask tomorrow, maybe he will be disqualified and we will win. Wang Feng, what a clever little brat. That was indeed the case. Yes. Zhuqing's words make sense. I feel that this 9 to 1 split is too strange. Ning Rongrong added. He said that he was too ugly and was afraid of scaring the Pope. It was obviously an excuse. The Pope did not say much because of the crowd, but we can always take off his mask during the competition and see who he really is. Who knows, he might even be a stinky old man. Wang Feng, haha, I'm sorry, but I've already heard your tactics. You want to take off my mask? No way. Do you want it to be the same as last time? It shouldn't be that easy. Can any of you get close to him? Tang Sen hesitated. Also, that 6-ring Soul Emperor Senior is the master's friend. That's why we could do that. But this 9 to 1 split has nothing to do with us. We won't go all out. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. Yes, they dared to do that in the setting sun forest because that 6-ring Soul Emperor Senior was the master's friend. It wouldn't hurt them, but this 9 to 1 split might not necessarily happen. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, that's right. It doesn't matter who wins or loses tomorrow. Anyway, he doesn't need the soul bone. Just like this, the group fell silent. Wang Feng used the golden lotus to completely heal Tang San's injuries and went back to rest. The next day, the final competition would determine the real champion. The weather today was exceptionally good. After waking up, Wang Feng put on his black robe and white mask and walked up the stairs to the Pope's palace. In fact, no matter what happened today, whether Wang Feng won or lost, he would be able to enter the Pope's palace. The previous matches were held outside the Pontus Palace, but Wang Feng was constantly paying attention to Xiao Wu. He was a little worried that her yearning, heartbroken grass would fall off if he wasn't careful. If that happened, it wouldn't be good. Even though Wang Feng knew that Tang Hao should be hiding in the Pope's palace, Wang Feng didn't sense any aura. As for whether his identity would be exposed or not, it would depend on how much strength Tang San and the others could make him use. In fact, as long as Tang San and the others could make him use the strength of second gear, it would be easy to guess. It would be even easier if he used the Void Realm. However, when he walked up the stairs, Wang Fengxin had a bad feeling. Logically speaking, the original plot has changed a lot because of my appearance. Xiao Wu's identity shouldn't be exposed, right? Wang Feng thought for a while. Thinking of this, Wang Feng was quite excited. If Xiao Wu's identity wasn't exposed, then a lot of the plot would change because of him. He also felt a sense of accomplishment. On the plaza outside the Pope's palace, Bibiden's expression was a little unpleasant as it was the last round of the finals. But there was nothing she could say. No matter who won or lost, it had nothing to do with the martial soul hall. In addition to the people from yesterday, Hulaina also watched quietly behind BB Dawn. After the competition, she would ask 9-1 Kai about yesterday's one-on-one battle. How did he break her 10,000-year soul skill? On the plaza, there seemed to be 2 more title duels. Suddenly, Wang Feng looked at the spectator stands and was stunned. Originally, there were only BB Dawn, the Chrysanthemum Dalu, the Ghost Dalu, and the Sword Dalu. However, there were 2 more chairs, and on each of them sat a titled Dalu in a golden robe with gemstones embedded in the chest. However, their auras were slightly weaker than the Chrysanthemum Dalu and the Ghost Dalu. The 2 titled Dalu gave Wang Feng a bad feeling. However, after thinking about it, as long as Xiao Wu's identity wasn't exposed, there shouldn't be any problems. At this moment, Wang Feng walked onto the plaza. At the same time, Shrek's 7 monsters, who had rested for the night, also walked onto the plaza. The confrontation between the 2 sides reminded Wang Feng of the first time he fought Shrek's 7 monsters 2 years ago. However, the current him was completely different from the him 2 years ago. Similarly, Tang San and the others were also very different from 2 years ago. Logically speaking, Tang San's injuries couldn't be healed in a day. The shattered 8 spider spear on his back would take at least a few days to completely repair. However, Wang Feng used the Golden Lotus to heal him last night. Therefore, Shrek's 7 monsters were no different from yesterday. They were in their best condition. Get ready for the competition. Release your martial souls. With the red-robed bishop's command, the competition started. At night, in a chapter. Chapter 447. At this moment, in the spectator stands. Fengji, the Pope might not let these 2 teams go so easily. The Sword Dalu transmitted his voice. I feel a strange murderous aura, but the Pope might not have an excuse to make a move. Ning Fengji was shocked, but his expression didn't change. He still looked at the square indifferently. With Uncle's sword strength, he could feel this subtle, murderous aura. Ning Fengji didn't have any doubts, because he also vaguely felt a special atmosphere. Because it was too calm. Since the Martial Spirit Hall team lost yesterday, the Pope BB Dawn had been too calm. The calmer she looked, the more terrifying she gave off. Perhaps others couldn't sense it. But Ning Fengji had lived for decades. Although he wasn't as strong as the Sword Dalu, he could sense it with his experience and sharp senses. But as long as she can't find an excuse, even if she's the BB Dawn, she won't dare to make a move on these 2 teams. Ning Fengji replied. But after answering, Ning Fengji's heart couldn't help but tighten. If the BB Dawn really wanted to make a move, it was too easy to find an excuse. The others don't matter, but Tang San and Jiu Kai. The BB Don won't let these two go so easily. The sword Dalu transmitted his voice. Jiu Kai injured 3 members of the Golden Generation. His strength has reached an unimaginable level. Under 25 years old, even the vast Heaven Dalu didn't have such talent and strength, not to mention that he has twin martial souls. From the fact that he defeated 3 members of the Golden Generation, this person is really too strong. In the future, he will be an enemy even stronger than the vast Heaven Douluo. Ning Fengji's expression was incomparably calm. Yes, the sword Douluo was completely right. Similarly, Tang San's talent and strength are not inferior to his father's at all. He will definitely be the next titled Douluo in the future. What does this mean? The Martial Spirit Hall should know that the vast Heaven Dalu killed the previous Pope of the Martial Spirit Hall. How can the Martial Spirit Hall tolerate another vast Heaven Dalu in this world? No matter who these two are, the BB Don won't let them go. But the others, the BB Don shouldn't make a move. Because there's no reason for her to kill all of them and even let them go. She will definitely find the most reasonable reason. Attack both of them. The Sword Dalu was also a veteran of the continent. And just like Ning Fengji, he was able to see things very clearly. At this moment, the competition had already begun. This was the second time that Wang Feng and Shrek's group of 7 had faced off against each other. Both sides had grown considerably stronger. However, that faint feeling of unease still lingered in Wang Feng's heart. I remember that in the original novel, BB Don found an excuse to kill Xiao Wu and Tang San because Xiao Wu was a soul beast. Wang Feng looked at Tang San's team of 7, whose soul rings had already lit up. He felt a little depressed. As long as Xiao Wu doesn't expose herself, she won't have a chance to attack. At this time, Tang San and the others did not think so much. For them, the only thing they were thinking about was how to win. Victory did not mean that he had to defeat his opponent. At this time, the 7 of them joined forces again, but this time, Tang San was not the leader. Instead, it was led by Zhu Zhuqing. He's still hiding his strength. It's impossible for the 7 of us to defeat him. There's no chance, Tang San said in a deep voice. Only by concentrating the strength of the 7 of us can we have a chance. Just as Zhu Qing said, if we can expose the other party's identity, we will have a chance. Tang San had thought it through carefully. Although his injuries had completely recovered from the 7-person fusion skill, he could not use the clear sky hammer true body for the time being. If he used it again, his spiritual power would not be able to support it, and he would easily become an idiot. If he could not use the clear sky hammer true body, it was completely nonsense to want to fight with Jiu. Therefore, Tang San changed his strategy and gave the power of the 7-person fusion skill to Zhu Zhuqing. At this time, Zhu Zhuqing had the fastest speed. As long as she could get close to Jiu or even surpass him in speed, then the plan could be implemented effectively. Otherwise, there is no hope of winning this battle. This was the result of the 7 people's discussion last night after Wang Feng rested. It surprised Wang Feng. In the square, with Zhu Zhuqing as the leader, the other 6 people supported each other. Waves of power seemed to form a backflow and surge towards Zhu Zhuqing. In fact, if Zhu Zhuqing's martial soul did not mutate, it would not be able to withstand the power of the 6 people. In order to use the 7-person fusion skill and give it to Tang San, other than the fact that the 6 people trusted Tang San and Tang San was the strongest among the 7 of them. Another reason was that Tang San's martial soul was the clear sky hammer, which could withstand the power of the 6 people. Otherwise, if it were an ordinary martial soul, the 7-person fusion skill would not succeed at all. Even the Soul Master would directly explode and die. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes suddenly turned golden, and her body changed slightly. Countless crescent marks that flickered with the luster of diamonds appeared on her skin, as if she had become a real Yue elf with a long tail swaying gently. However, her body did not become as huge as the other martial soul true bodies. Instead, it was very small, with a height of at most 1 meter and a length of less than 2 meters. She looked like a Yue elf that was 1 size bigger, and her eyes shone with a golden light. Elf true body. Wang Feng's eyes narrowed. Is she really going to cause trouble? He knew that Zhu Zhuqing would not give up so easily. The Yue elf was an extremely powerful mutated martial soul, and was not inferior to Zhan Shaotian or Yan's Lord of the Flames. The most important characteristic of the Yue elf was its speed. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing was able to temporarily use her martial soul true body after receiving the power of the six people. This meant that her strength had reached rank 70 and above. In this state, and with the mutated Yue elf martial soul, in that case, her speed would reach a terrifying level. However, this Yue elf was very beautiful. The kind of elegance and otherworldly charm could make anyone be attracted to her at this moment. In the next moment, Zhu Zhuqing, who had transformed into a Yue elf, attacked Wang Feng directly. Fast, too fast. Wang Feng's eyes narrowed. Zhu Zhuqing's speed was comparable to his second gear. Wang Feng did not expect Tang San and the others to use this method to deal with him. He had to admit that it was a very good idea. Without any hesitation, Wang Feng directly entered second gear. The moment the mysterious underworld armor disappeared, there was a flash of light. A purplish gold claw was about to attack Wang Feng's face. It was really fast, Wang Fengxin thought to himself. It was as if he was facing his second gear. Fortunately, Wang Feng's reaction was also very fast, and he dodged almost instantly. End of chapter. Chapter 448. However, 3 faint marks appeared on the mask. Even the hood of the black robe on his head was torn. After entering second gear, the Xianming armor's restrictions were removed. His body was freer, and he had extra soul power to activate the Xianming armor. The disadvantage was that he couldn't use the Xianming spike to attack his enemies in second gear. However, entering second gear meant that Wang Feng was going to use other attacking methods. He was going to get serious. Even after entering second gear, Wang Feng couldn't completely dodge Zhu Zhuqing's attack with his quick reflexes. It wasn't hard to imagine how powerful Zhu Zhuqing was when she entered her martial soul true body state. Just as Wang Feng finished reacting, several doppelgangers appeared behind Wang Feng and rapidly attacked him. Almost all of the clones attacked Wang Feng's robe and mask. Evidently, they wanted to take off his mask. Wang Fengxin broke out in cold sweat. Although Zhu Zhuqing was fast, her attacking power was far inferior to Tang San's. Hence, it was impossible for her to hurt him. This wasn't because Zhu Zhuqing's martial soul true body wasn't strong. It was because his body was too strong. However, because of this, Zhu Zhuqing didn't have any intention of attacking him. Instead, she wanted to tear off his mask and robe. She was a little shameless. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. The Godslayer spear appeared in his hand. He used the momentum of his retreat to sweep the spear behind him. The 3 clones behind him were all pierced into nothingness. Soul-devouring blood wings. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. He spread the blood wings behind him and dodged Zhu Zhuqing's attack again. At this moment, there were 3 more scratches on his mask. You're too naive if you want to use this method. Wang Feng frowned. However, her mouth moved slightly as if she had swallowed something. In the next moment, 2 light figures appeared on her back. Oh, you even prepared Oscar's mushroom sausage? Wang Feng smiled. You didn't swallow it. Were you waiting for me to use my soul-devouring blood wings? It seems like you have a clear understanding of the situation. Do you really think I won't attack you? In midair, the UUF fairy grew a pair of wings, and just as she was about to fly into the sky, Wang Feng swung his god-slaying spear, and 2 terrifying rays of bloody light shot toward Zhu Zhuqing like sharp blades. The blood light turned into a sharp blade that seemed to be able to cut through everything in the world. It directly cut the light wings behind the Yue elf into 2 at an evil angle. Then it exploded in the square. Rumble. The violent explosion caused a crater to appear on the ground of the square. The square in front of the pontiff's palace wasn't simple. Previously, they had fought so fiercely with the 3 members of the Golden Generation, but they hadn't caused much damage to the ground. Now, two attacks from the other party had blasted a huge hole in the ground. One could imagine how terrifying the power of this attack was. This sudden long-range attack caused Tang San's group of 6 to be greatly shocked. The 6 of them were currently in a weakened state, and their soul force had been depleted. All they could do was watch. However, they didn't expect their opponent's soul skill to contain such a powerful long-range attack. The UUF fairy, whose light wings had been destroyed, could only stare at Wang Feng in midair. Wang Feng didn't want to give his opponent a chance to attack. If this continued, the mask on his face would really be broken by his opponent's attacks. He didn't have any intention of going easy on her. He directly rushed down towards the UUF fairy. Wang Feng intended to end the match immediately. Attacking the ground from the air was an absolute advantage. Even Zhu Zhuqing, who was in her martial soul true body, couldn't dodge in time. As he descended, Wang Feng swung his god-slaying spear again. Several rays of bloody light sealed off Zhu Zhuqing's dodging range. 6 rays of bloody light came from different angles and landed in the spots where Zhu Zhuqing wanted to dodge. Every spot exploded with a flower of blood and several deep craters. After the explosion, countless blood droplets would splatter. These blood droplets contained extremely strong offensive power. Once they landed on a Soul Master's body, they would be like maggots that could absorb the Soul Master's soul power. Furthermore, they couldn't be removed by any means. Hence, Zhu Zhuqing could only dodge the 6 bloody explosions. There was no time for her to dodge Wang Feng's attacks. She's really agile. Wang Feng thought to himself. The 6 rays of bloody light exploded, but none of the blood droplets landed on Zhu Zhuqing's body. However, at this moment, he had also landed. This time, he didn't use his god-slaying spear to attack. Instead, he used a simple punch to hit the side of the UUF fairy's body. With this punch, the UUF fairy's nimble body was sent flying. There was nothing much to say since he had caused her to be stunned. Wang Feng stood where he was as black light gathered. He used the mysterious underworld spike to hit the UUF fairy's various spots. Boom! The UUF fairy's nimble body landed on the ground. The huge body of energy dissipated. It was a pity. If Zhu Zhuqing had her 5th soul ring, she could still fight. However, they didn't. Wang Feng touched the 3 cracks on his mask. Although he was caught off guard, and Zhu Zhuqing accidentally scratched the 3 cracks, they couldn't tell. Sigh, what a pity. Wang Feng shook his head. The few of you aren't very smart. Since you thought of using Zhu Zhuqing's speed to remove the mask, why didn't you think of applying some corrosive poison on Zhu Zhuqing's claws? This way, as long as Zhu Zhuqing can scratch my mask, even if it's just a tiny bit, it can corrode my mask. To think I even prepared 2 masks. Seriously, Wang Feng shook his head. There were many ways to destroy his mask. The situation in the Setting Sun Forest was a little special. They didn't dare to use that method now. However, they could have used other methods. Using Zhu Zhuqing's speed was the right thing to do. This was the only way to attack him. But why didn't they change a little? At this moment, Tang San and the others had helpless expressions on their faces. We lost. Tang San sighed. I didn't think that he would still be able to use long-range attacks after flying. He didn't give Zhuqing any chance to fly into the air and fight with him at all. He used the air to attack the ground. He didn't give Zhuqing any chance. At the beginning, it was the only chance to attack Jiu Yi. Zhuqing knew that he would definitely use his flying ability to fly into the air to dodge Zhuqing's continuous attacks. That's why she prepared the mushroom intestines in advance and didn't give him any chance to catch his breath. However, she didn't expect him to have a long-range attack after flying. The others also smiled bitterly and helplessly. End of chapter. Chapter 449. 9-1 didn't give him any chance. After discovering our plan, he flew into the sky without any hesitation. Dai Mubai was a little dispirited. Furthermore, he did hide his abilities. Logically speaking, Zhuqing should be as fast as a rank 70 agility type soul sage when she unleashed her martial soul true body. She should have surpassed him. Logically speaking, He shouldn't have been able to react to the first attack. However, he was able to react. Furthermore, his speed wasn't inferior to Zhu Qing's. This meant that he was hiding his abilities. His speed alone was comparable to a rank 70 agility-type soul sage. Everyone present wasn't stupid. They could tell at once. After that, it was his solo performance. He didn't give Zhu Qing any chance at all. He directly sealed off all escape routes for Zhu Qing. Then, he landed from the sky and punched the Yue elf. Finally, he used his soul bone to form a weird combo. He didn't give her any chance at all. This was the situation in a competition. When the strong met the weak, the other party didn't give them any chance. They were extremely cautious. It was impossible for them to win. In the previous round, both parties had revealed their trump cards. Their abilities were similar, so it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. But now, the other party was strong, and they were weak. 9-1 is still 9-1. Tang San shook his head. Why did he give us a chance? Actually, I feel that he was already holding back. Otherwise, he could have attacked Zhu Qing directly with the 6 streaks of blood earlier. He wouldn't have sealed off her position and landed a fatal attack on Zhu Qing. You saw the explosive power of the blood streaks. Think about it. Since the start of the qualifiers, he has been wearing a clean battle suit. His battles are extremely short, straightforward, and fatal. When did he give anyone a chance? Tang San looked at the sky and said softly, 9-1. Teacher once said that this name means that any team that goes up against him only has a 10% chance of winning. Actually, when Zhu Qing attacked at the start, she grasped that 10% chance of winning. However, she didn't grasp it. The 7 of them were silent. Any team that went up against him only had a 10% chance of winning. How arrogant was that? This 10% chance of winning didn't belong to you. It was given to you by me. If you catch it, you can win. He's so strong. How can a 10% chance defeat him? Ma Hongjun was speechless. This 10% chance of winning isn't enough to defeat him. Tang San shook his head again. Zhu Qing's analysis yesterday was actually quite good. If you want to win against 9-1, all you need to do is take off his mask and reveal his true face. Then he should really lose. Therefore, this 10% chance of success is to remove his mask. Hearing this, the few of them were stunned. They felt a bit surprised, but they understood something. That was indeed the case. From the start of the qualifiers, as long as a team took off Wang Feng's mask, he would definitely be disqualified. He had lost. Unfortunately, the right team did not see this point. He was always thinking of defeating 9-1. Tang San and the others realized it in the end, but it was too late. They did not prepare enough tactics. Purple Star, college wins. The Cardinal was silent for a long time before he finally announced slowly. With this announcement, the Continental Senior Elite Tournament finally came to an end. Tang San looked at the black-robed figure with a sigh. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. 9-1. One person really defeated the entire tournament. I'm afraid that no second person will have such a legendary experience. Although they lost, the 7 of them were not discouraged. They had fully displayed their strength. There was nothing to be discouraged about, but they were still a little disappointed. But they were incomparably impressed and speechless. At this moment, they were even more curious about this 9-1. What kind of person was this 9-1? I'm afraid he will become a legend of the entire continent. Oscar also sighed. It's really hard to imagine. Yes, one person defeated the entire tournament. This was enough to be recorded in the history of the Soul Master world. No one had done it before, and it was impossible for anyone to break this record in the future. At most, it would be a tie. After all, it was impossible to defeat the entire tournament with only one person, right? At this moment, the Pope and several titled Douluo stood up together. Congratulations on obtaining the final victory of this tournament. Bibidon stood up and looked at 9-1. At this moment, everyone present was also looking at 9-1. Even a Martial Soul Hall had to admit, this person had really created the greatest miracle in history. No matter what, they would be recorded in the history of the Soul Master world. I've been in power for so many years. Pope Bibidon walked out of the spectator stand. As he spoke, he nodded at Hulaina. Hulaina took out the prepared tray from her soul tool. There were 4 soul bones on it. I've never seen such a genius like you. Bibidon looked at 9, 1, and revealed a rare smile. Come up and receive your reward. With your talent, your future is limitless. There weren't many soul masters present, but everyone's eyes were on the 4 soul bones. One person taking all 4 of them. It was truly an inconceivable thing. But it was happening right in front of them. Wang Feng's footsteps paused. Without any hesitation, he walked up and looked at the 4 soul bones. He naturally didn't need these 4 soul bones. When he returned from the tournament and announced his identity, he would just give them to them. After all, it was time for everyone to go their separate ways. After all, they had graduated. Oh yes, 9, 1. Are you willing to join the Martial Soul Hall? Bibidon asked slowly as he looked at 9, 1 from a close distance. Although there were 3 scratches, Jiu Kai's face couldn't be seen. It was clear that he had hidden himself very well. However, Bibidon's words seemed to be a final ultimatum. At this moment, Hulaina was looking at 9, 1 curiously. She had to ask him if he wanted to join later. There are many geniuses in the Martial Soul Hall. I don't need anyone. A hoarse voice sounded. Thank you, Your Highness, for your recruitment. I'm used to being alone. I won't join any organization. After hearing this, Bibidon's expression didn't change. He only nodded and watched as 9, 1 kept the soul bones in his soul tool. He didn't stop him. Just as 9, 1 was about to turn around and leave. At this moment, Bibidon spoke again. The tournament is over. In that case, for elders, take down Tang San and Jiu Yi first. In an instant, the entire place suddenly quieted down. Countless temple knights suddenly surrounded the square, making it so that not even a drop of water could leak out. Ning Fengji and the sword Dalu looked at each other. What do you mean by this? 9, 1 turned around and looked at Bibidon. End of chapter. Chapter 450. Wang Fengxin broke out in a cold sweat. Sure enough, this Bibidon was definitely not so simple. Xiao didn't reveal her identity. How dare she give such an order? At the same time, Shrek's people were stunned at first. Then they quickly gathered together and looked at the Pope with anger and confusion. Your Majesty? Shouldn't you explain the reason? Ning Fengji stood up and said in a deep voice. It didn't matter because he didn't know 9 openings, but he couldn't let the Pope catch Tang San. Ning Fengji, do you want to meddle in other people's business? Bibidon's voice became a little cold, and even Hulaina behind him was a little confused. Obviously, she didn't know the situation. Then you'd better think it over, Bibidon said calmly. The consequence of meddling in other people's business is to become the enemy of our martial spirit palace. Ning Fengji's face darkened. Although the 7-treasure glazed tile sect was very strong, he didn't dare to ruin the future of the 7-treasure glazed tile sect in his own hands. At this moment, he had to take a step back silently. At this time, the master stood out and shouted, Your Majesty, I'm one of the elders of the martial spirit palace. Why do you want to catch him? Or Tang San? If there is no reason, I believe that no soul master in the world of soul masters will believe in the martial spirit palace. His words were very serious, and also to remind the other party. Without any reason or excuse, it was impossible for him to make a move recklessly. Doing so would make the martial spirit palace lose the faith and respect in the hearts of all the soul masters on the continent. Reason, Bibidon said indifferently. The reason is very simple. This morning, Yin died. He was poisoned to death and was attacked by 9 openings at the same time. Your disciple didn't completely detoxify the poison. He removed the power of his soul bone and absorbed the vitality of our disciple. In addition to the injury caused by 9 openings, he killed Yin at the same time. To put it simply, the 2 of them used special methods to kill people in the competition. Unfortunately, we found out. In order not to delay the competition, I deliberately announced this after the competition, because this matter is only related to the 2 of them. The rest of you can leave. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire place fell into dead silence. Tang San's eyes were wide open. His 8 spider spears did indeed have the effect of absorbing the enemy's soul power, but how could it absorb the enemy's life force? The wound caused by the 9-1 split was completely suppressed yesterday. It was impossible for it to be fatal. However, since those words were spoken by the Holy Emperor himself, it meant that the Holy Emperor was truly dead. Or perhaps this was the Pope's excuse to keep the two of them. Tang San's heart sank. This excuse was sufficient. The masters looked at each other and understood that Bibi Dan was just making up an excuse. She would not let Tang San and Jiao Yi leave this place. It was impossible for him to let go of 2 future powerful enemies. Wang Fengxin was also shocked. These superiors are really unscrupulous in order to achieve their goals. Wang Feng felt that he had underestimated the viciousness of these villains. In the original work, it was because Xiao Wu was a soul beast that Bibi Dan found an excuse. Wang Feng had warned everyone not to give Xiao Wu a chance to expose herself, but Bibi Dan could still find an excuse. Now, Wang Feng thought that no matter how perfect his plan was, she would definitely find an excuse to keep them here. If she wanted to kill you, even if you accidentally stepped on a piece of the floor in front of the square, it could be used as an excuse. Damn it, Wang Feng sighed. However, Uncle Hao should be here. If he is here, there should be no problem. Wang Feng was not stupid enough to confront the Holy Emperor head-on, and the strength of the martial spirit palace was far stronger than he had imagined. He had planned to go to the Holy Emperor's palace to check in. Plus, Xiao Wu was not exposed, so the Holy Emperor could not find any excuse to kill them and could leave safely. Unfortunately, Wang Feng still underestimated Bibi Dan, the #1 villain in the original work. On the other side, Shrek's 7 monsters surrounded Tang San. The 7 of them were united and would not let Tang San be taken away. Kid, come with me first. Douluo Bo grabbed Tang San and was about to leave with Tang San. The Holy Emperor obviously only wanted to catch Tang San and Jiao Kai. The others would not move at all. Unfortunately, just as Douluo Bo's jade Qilin snake true body appeared, a cold snort suddenly sounded. This voice seemed to carry the power of heaven, and it directly made Douluo Bo unable to move. Even his martial spirit true body could not move at all. He could not help but look at Bibi Dan in horror. At this moment, 9 soul rings suddenly lit up on Bibidan's body, and the last one was scarlet. It was a 100,000-year soul ring. With just the pressure of his soul power, he could imprison a titled Dalu. This Holy Emperor Bibidan's strength was completely beyond everyone's imagination. A 100,000-year soul ring was a treasure that countless soul masters dreamed of. From this, one could imagine just how much of a boost a soul master would receive from this item. Even Wang Feng could feel how terrifying this 100,000-year soul ring was when he saw it for the first time. Other than Douluo Bo, almost everyone from the Shrek Academy could not move at all under the pressure of this soul power. Only Wang Feng's pupil shrank. The pressure of a 100,000-year title Dalu was simply unimaginable. Wang Feng groaned, and the Black Hoop's spiritual skull suddenly released waves of clear energy to relieve this pressure for Wang Feng. Wang Feng was very astonished. Only then did he remember that his skull was a product of the system, and it was at least 100,000-year soul bone. Its use and functions had probably not been fully explored by him. After all, this thing was too exaggerated for him. How could a rank 45 soul master unleash the power of a 100,000-year soul bone? I underestimated this soul bone. Wang Feng felt the comfort brought by the clear energy. It could actually relieve the pressure of Bibidan's soul power. At this moment, Bibi Dan waved the scepter in her hand. The 4 titled Dalu beside her directly rushed towards Tang San. Jiao Kai was the closest to the Holy Emperor. There was no need for them to do anything. They should be completely immobilized now. 4 titled Dalu and the Holy Emperor, a total of 5 titled Dalu from the Holy Emperor's palace. This lineup was strong enough to make them despair. But at this moment, an indifferent voice sounded from outside. "Get out of my way." The voice exploded. It was incomparably calm, but there was a unique, domineering aura in the voice. Everyone present could not help but tremble. Wang Fengxin suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. Uncle Hao would still appear. If that was the case, then it should be easy to handle. Hearing this, the Shrek Academy was a little stunned, except for Tang San. End of chapter. Chapter 451. Could it be? Tang San's face was full of surprise. Following that, with a low rumble, a light flashed in midair. The four titled Dalu who had released their martial souls were about to rush in front of Tang San and the others, but they were suddenly blasted away, and the four figures were sent flying. His expression changed drastically. At the same time, a voice appeared in midair. Wang Feng's gaze froze. They had not seen each other for several years, but Tang Hao still looked the same. He was dressed in a tattered black robe, slovenly and unshaven. At this moment, other than his sharp eyes, he looked like a beggar on the street. It's been 8 years. Other than aging a little, Uncle Hao hasn't changed at all. Wang Fengxin thought. Beside Tang Hao, there was also a huge iron hammer. Accompanied by 9 soul rings, it exuded a terrifying aura that reached the heavens and the earth. Similarly, Tang Hao's last soul ring was also scarlet. 100,000-year soul ring. Dad! Tang San's eyes were filled with tears. At this moment, he suddenly realized that his father had not left him. Since he could appear now, he must have been secretly protecting him. Thinking of this, even Tang San, who had lived 2 lives, was extremely touched. Tang Hao, you're really here, Bibi Don shouted sternly. As soon as he finished speaking, Bibi Don slammed the scepter in his hand on the ground. Boom! An invisible wave of air spread out in all directions. Even Hulaina, who was behind her, was directly sent flying. It was as if a hurricane had swept through the entire square. Shrek and the others also retreated. They were already suppressed by Bibidon's soul power and could not move at all. At this moment, the group of people instantly fell to the ground. At the same time, several shrill cries sounded from the pontiff's palace. It seemed to be a response. At the same time, Shrek and the others fell to the ground one after another. The yearning heartbroken red in Xiao Wu's arms also suddenly fell out. Seeing this, Bibi Don was stunned at first, then he sneered. How laughable, how laughable. Back then, you went against our martial soul hall for a soul beast. Right now, your son also has a soul beast by his side. The Tang family has truly poked the nest of soul beasts. Don't even think of leaving today. These words simply stunned everyone except Wang Feng. Bibi Don was obviously referring to Xiao Wu. Wang Feng was also dumbfounded. Is this even possible? But at this point, it didn't matter whether Xiao Wu exposed herself or not. Umph. Tang Hao grunted coldly. His voice directly dispersed Bibidon's chi pressure. Bibi Don, since you know that I'm coming to the Pontiff's Hall, do you think that you can kill my son with just a few of you? As if angered by Tang Hao's words, several sharp shrieks erupted from the Pontiff's palace. Wang Feng counted. Damn it, there were at least 5 or 6 titled Dalu. Even if the rank 99 transcendent Douluo wasn't around, there had to be at least 97 or 98 titled Dalu. Sure enough, in the next moment, several streaks of light appeared from the palace and landed behind Bibi Don. A total of 9 titled Dalu. Wang Feng couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Ha ha! Tang Hao was not afraid at all when he saw this. He stood in the air and exuded a terrifying aura. Tang Hao, killed your previous pontiff back then. Today, I can tear down your pontiff's hall. Little 3, watch carefully. This is the true clear sky body. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang Hao's 7th soul ring suddenly lit up. The clear sky hammer seemed to be at least 100 meters long, and it was like a small mountain. Following this, his 9th soul ring lit up, causing the hammer to be suffused with blood-red light, as if it were filled with countless blood-red patterns. Suddenly, it was as if the entire world froze. Oomph! Bibidon's eyes flashed. You want to attack the Pontiff's Hall? You want to stop us? The 2 of you, go and capture Tang San, Jiu Ikai, and that soul beast. The rest of you follow me. She obviously expected that Tang Hao would secretly protect Tang San, so she was naturally prepared. After saying that, BB Don and the sixth title Daw directly rose into the air, ready to take the hammer strike from Tang Hao's ninth soul skill head-on. Seeing this, Tang Hao's expression changed slightly. The other party didn't attack him. Taking the hammer strike was the right choice. Otherwise, this magnificent Pontiff's Hall would collapse. But he didn't expect BB Don to be so cunning as to secretly plant 2 more title Dalu. BB Don and the 6th title Dalu were all above rank 95. These two were slightly weaker, only rank 923. But he didn't have time to divert his attention to resist. As for the few people from Shrek Academy, they were directly shaken by the force released by Bibidon's scepter. Even Douluo was a little dizzy for a moment, and Flanders and Lu Erlong were the same. There was no way they could resist it. What should they do? Seeing the 2 titled Douluo attacking, Shrek and the others were anxious. Dad! Ning Rongrong looked at Ning Fengji in the distance. If Grandpa Jian could make a move now, Tang Sin would definitely be able to retreat safely. Sect Master Ning, don't do anything stupid. One of the titled Daw said in a gloomy voice, we won't hurt your daughter. I hope you won't become the enemy of the Martial Spear Hall. Ning Fengji gritted his teeth. He couldn't make a move now. Even the sword Douluo frowned deeply. If the other party didn't touch Ning Rongrong, they couldn't find any reason to attack, unless they had to sacrifice the entire 7-treasure glazed tile sect. It was already very good that they didn't help either side. Seeing that Ning Fengji and the sword Daw didn't make a move, the 2 titled Daw roared and directly attacked Tang San and Shrek's group. At this moment, Grandmaster suddenly looked in another direction. A faint black light barrier suddenly enveloped Tang San's position. Boom! The 2 titled Douluo were stunned. Their bodies slowly lit up, and in a hurry, 2 attacks landed on the black light barrier. Bang! 2 dull sounds rang out, and the 2 titled Douluo flew backward with gloomy expressions. What is this black light barrier? Everyone inside the light barrier was stunned. This light barrier, isn't it? At the same time, a faint voice rang out behind the 2 titled Daw. Is my 9. 1 opening such an embarrassing event? Why didn't you catch me first? I'm very angry. This familiar voice caused everyone to be shocked. Ning Fengji looked at 9-1 Kai in disbelief. The sword Douluo also looked at 9-1 Kai in disbelief. Shrek's 7 monsters also looked at 9-1 Kai in astonishment. Even Flender and the other teachers looked at the 9-1-1 split in horror. 9-1 Kai's palm bloomed behind the 2 titled Dalu. Rip! Wang Feng lifted his black robe and flung it gently. The black robe fluttered in the wind, and together with the 2 masks, 9-1 Kai's true appearance was revealed. Following that, several rays of light lit up from Wang Feng's body. Thorn Lotus, Divinity, Soul-devouring blood wings, martial soul possession. Waves of aura suddenly burst out from Wang Feng's body. Gold, blood, and black. 3 rays of light intertwined, and a pair of blood wings and 6 pairs of pitch-black shadows slowly rose from Wang Feng's back. An extremely evil aura permeated the entire area. And please count the votes in a chapter that you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.